Chapter 10:11. In the ocean, there's a special scenery, which is sand. In human knowledge, sand was extremely common. It was formed by nature after hundreds and thousands of years, or even billions of years. The sand was extremely fine. If it was magnified 1,000 times, the world of sand and stone would be like a resplendent galaxy, a wondrous sight to behold. However, something as magical as sand could also cause unforeseen events if there was too much of it. At this moment, they came to a seabed sandbed. At least as soon as Han Fei appeared, his perception spread out within 500 kilometers, and all he saw was sand and stones. At the bottom of the sea, there was a waterfall called the Sand Waterfall. There was nothing special about it. There were no less than 10 sand waterfalls at the periphery of the Scattered Stars Island. When water poured out of the Empyrean waterfall, sand poured out of the sand waterfalls. However, for an ordinary sand waterfall, the flow of water was not very large. The moment everyone got to know the environment, Juyin Ling said, "Are we just going to ignore those people outside?" Han Fei explained, "Don't worry. Because of some sort of balance, they can't attack us now." They were no match for a hidden fisher. If it was a law enforcer, they wouldn't dare to make a move. This time, their goal is to provoke us and lure us into the universe. There might be traps set for us in the galaxy. Juyin Ling's eyes turned cold. "Shameless," Han Fei said casually. "We won't go to Galaxy for the time being. We can't give them a chance. They shouldn't be able to control the three Holy Lands. When the time comes, we'll go directly to the three Holy Lands." Luo Xiaobai suggested, "Let's take a look at the environment first. There's something under the sand. There's a kind of withered yellow seaweed." Therefore, Luo Xiaobai immediately perceived something through the spiritual plant here. Han Fei also scanned the area and simply said there are a small number of mess-swallowing worms. However, they should be stronger than the mess-swallowing worms in the level 3 fishery. However, there aren't many mess-swallowing worms, and the shells are almost extinct. I'm afraid there are some large creatures here. Almost at the same time, they all asked, "Clam worms?" Luo Xiaobai shook her head. "It's different from the clam worms we know. Don't forget that the clam worm we saw last time lived in the undersea jungle. Although there's sand there, it's mostly made up of mud caves." Han Fei said, "Apart from the clam worms, there's also a very large fish." Juyin Ling couldn't help but look at Han Fei. "I didn't sense anything. More than 300 kilometers away, there's a kind of stupid fish that grows vertically. Since this is a hidden fisher-level secret realm, it can't be so simple. Let's go to the sand and have a look." Any one of them had the strength to fight against a law enforcement officer. Of course, he wasn't afraid of a mere sea of sand. When a few of them stood on the sand, Zhang Xuanyu struck out with his spear and directly nailed an ugly mess-swallowing worm with a hard shell. Zhang Xuanyu said, "It's not strong, but its body structure is very strange, like sand." Han Fei took out his fishing rod and cast it out. The fishing rod pierced through the void and appeared more than 2,000 meters away. As Han Fei waved his hand, the mess-swallowing worms were pulled out. It was more than 30 meters long, but that didn't mean it was powerful. Even ordinary mess-swallowing worms were more than 30 meters long. When Han Fei pulled the mess-swallowing worm closer, he found that the particles on the shell of this worm were obvious, as if they were covered with a layer of crystal powder. At this moment, the long body of the mess-swallowing worm was twisting in the seawater, and some sand kept falling. In Han Fei's eyes, information emerged. Name: Sandworm. Introduction: Sand-eating worms. Sandworms like to eat rare gemstone crystals in the gravel and strengthen their bodies by refining these gemstone crystals. They are often buried in the sand. An adult sandworm is up to 30 meters long and has sand thorns in its body. Its joints can be broken and its body can be disassembled. Growing up separately is the basic ability of sandworms to survive. Level 42 Quality Rare contains spiritual energy greater than 1,618 points. Edible effect: Inedible, collectible, rare gem, absorbable. Remarks: A kind of mess-swallowing worm. Lu Rinquang frowned and said, "I hate bugs." Li Luo Luo rushed over. I like bugs. Liluoluo pinched the body of the sandworm with one hand and squeezed hard, directly crushing a scale of the sandworm. Liluoluo said, "The shell of this sandworm is very hard. I feel that it's almost as hard as an advanced spiritual weapon." Han Fei waved his knife casually and cut the sandworm into two halves. A hideous head quickly grew out of the severed body of the insect, and it started to escape. Clap, clap. Luo Xiaobai buckled the two sandworms with vines and wondered, "It can split into two creatures." Han Fei shrugged and said, "It should be so. Let me cut it a few more times." Swish, swish, swish. In the blink of an eye, the mess swallowing worm was cut into 8 pieces. To everyone's surprise, these 8 pieces were all alive, but their levels had become lower. Han Fei cut again and found that even if this sandworm was cut into 20 pieces, it was still alive. From 1 living creature to 20 living creatures. Boom! Han Fei smashed them with a punch, crushing all the 20 split sandworms. This time, these sandworms were really dead. At this time, Luo Xiaobai grabbed dozens of colorful stones. Li Luoluo reached out and grabbed all the stones in her hand. "This color is really beautiful," Luo Xiaobai said. "I think so. The mess swallowing worms here can split infinitely. Unless they are completely crushed, they will split more and more. However, these mess swallowing worms won't split on their own, or it's not time for them to split." Han Fei smiled and said, "Anyway, they are not strong. After splitting, they're even weaker." Luo Xiaobai shook her head and said, "No, I feel the aura of a spiritual plant from the body of this mess swallowing worm." As soon as Luo Xiaobai said that, with several loud bangs, 5 or 6 withered yellow vines suddenly emerged from the sand. Li Luoluo jumped out with a swish. In the air, a few colorful worms appeared, and Li Luoluo returned to Han Fei and the others. Li Luoluo turned the corner and asked, "What's that? I didn't feel it just now." Luo Xiaobai explained, "It's a kind of spiritual plant, a kind of purple bamboo spiritual plant that can have consciousness." At this moment, as soon as the spiritual plant came out, a large mass rushed towards Han Fei and the others. Han Fei slashed out casually, only to feel a huge resistance with a clink. Although a part of it was cut off, why was it so hard? Luo Xiaobai said, "Hook it." Han Fei said, "No, let hook us and go down to see its body." Luo Xiaobai was stunned for a moment and couldn't help but smile bitterly. Truly, the skilled were bold. One look, and one could tell that this spirit plant was not an ordinary item. Han Fei wanted to let this spiritual plant drag them over. With Han Fei's reminder, no one stopped him. But when the vine tentacles were about to reach Luo Xiaobai, they suddenly began to quickly retract their tentacles. Luo Xiaobai's face changed slightly. "It wants to run." Han Fei immediately flashed out, grabbed the vine, pressed down the law of gravity, and shouted, "Come on, pull out." Jiu Ling and Li Luoluo were dumbfounded. Is this the style of the Thug Academy? The spiritual plant had already hidden far away, but these people actually wanted to pull it out? At this moment, information appeared in Han Fei's eyes. Name: Jade-eating demonic vine. Introduction: a strange creature in the Sand Sea. It likes jade essence, is extremely tough, has great strength, and can reach the power of 2 waves. It is good at whipping and binding. The jade-eating demonic vine produces jade essence and can be refined into divine weapons. Level 58, quality, exotic, contains spiritual energy greater than 19,998 points. Effect: inedible, collectible, jade essence, absorbable. When Han Fei saw this information, he was taken aback. The power of 2 waves? Does a level 58 creature have such great strength? No wonder it was a little difficult for him to pull it without using any secret method. Sure enough, the danger of the secret realm was higher. Imagine if an ordinary peak-level hidden fisher were here. The strength of 8 million kilograms would be considered excellent, but he would be no match for this jade-eating demonic vine. Even if he used a secret method, he would at most be on par with this thing. However, this thing had many tentacles. At this moment, dozens of vines slapped across the air. Han Fei sneered and the invincible knife, light, slashed horizontally, directly breaking the vine whip. At this moment, Luo Xiaobai grabbed the vine with one hand, her eyes white, and tried to control it directly. In a moment, the six of them were pulled out of a huge sand pit without using any secret methods. And Luo Xiaobai's level was higher than this jade-eating demonic vine. At this moment, she had successfully controlled it and let it climb out by itself. After a while, everyone saw a huge rhizome like an old tree root appear on the sand surface. 50 or 60 large tentacles and countless small tentacles were swaying with the waves. Han Fei curled his lips and said, "That's it? Hee hee, there must be more than one here." Jiu Ling said, "Look, this tree has been jade-like. Are those mess swallowing worms raised by it?" Han Fei nodded. "Very likely. This means that in this sand sea, there is far more than one jade-eating demonic vine like this." Luo Xiaobai came back to herself and said, "There is indeed more than one spiritual plant. Through this spiritual plant, I can feel that in the central area of the sand sea, there is another largest one, which may have become a law enforcer." Zhang Xuanyu grinned. "So what? Can't the six of us defeat a law enforcer?" Luo Xiaobai thought for a moment and said, "No need. For us, it's not meaningful to defeat it." Han Fei nodded. "We're not short of resources now. A battle at this level is meaningless. Let's go out. Let's divide all the star beads, deal with the dangers in some low-level secret realms, and then leave them to Xing Yu and the others. When we're done, let's go to the ruins." Luo Xiaobai couldn't help looking at Han Fei. How many ruins are there?" Han Fei replied, 18. "Wow." Chapter 10:12. Zhang Xuanyu put his arm around Lu Rinquang's shoulder and heaved a long sigh. "We're just here to make up the numbers." Lu Rinquang reacted as usual. "That's great." With the experience of coming in, it was naturally easy to get out. Spiritual energy triggered the star bead, and the portal was opened. With a swish, they returned to the 1,000-star trial field. At this time, only 300 breaths of time had passed since they entered. If they hadn't stayed in the sea of sand for a while, they could have come out even earlier. They're out. In the distance, many people revealed surprised expressions. Just now, the collision between the disciples of the Thug Academy and the big clans didn't really break out, but it was impossible not to attract attention. In particular, some people from the 7 major sects were silently watching everything that had just happened. Of course, at this moment, they didn't come to find trouble with them. Chu Jian and the others also left, and no one came to attack. Ku Shui quickly came to the front of everyone. "Young masters, you're out already?" Luo Xiaobai said casually. "These secret realms are of little use to us. There's no need to explore them." Han Fei took out more than 200 star beads and fish skin maps and said, "Okay, in that case, let's split them." For most secret realms, if the problem was not too big, then there was no need to worry about it. If he encountered a few troublesome creatures, he would casually deal with them. "Next, we will explore the ruins. Fatty, stay with Li Luo. Li Luo immediately said, "I'm a law enforcer. I can do it alone." Han Fei said with a smile, "You're just a temporary teacher of the Thug Academy, and the resources have been accumulated by the Thug Academy for a long time. Do you understand?" To put it bluntly, Han Fei only trusted Li Luo as a friend. In the world of cultivators, it was already very good to have a friendship. It was impossible for Li Luo to explore her secret realm alone. As the saying goes, one must always be on guard against others. As long as they weren't from the Thug Academy, he had to keep an eye on them. After all, it wasn't impossible for those aristocratic families to make deliberate arrangements in order to achieve certain goals. Why did he ask Lu Rinquang to go with him? This guy didn't seem to be very strong, but when he unleashed his full power, he was second only to Han Fei. The Overlord's technique and violent war body superimposed. The legendary creature Deep Blue Roar possessed him, and the Sky Devourer technique could swallow insects. If there was really something wrong with Li Luo, Lu Rinquang could completely suppress her. Li Luo had no objection to this. Of course, She wouldn't ask why Jiuyin Ling could explore alone. That was because Han Fei knew what Jiuyin Ling was like. She didn't hesitate to give him the comfort and nature technique. This was already a great deal of trust. 3 days later, on the square of the 1,000-star proving ground, the group of people became famous. The name of the Thug Academy had almost spread around here, because Han Fei and the others would come out almost every hour, and they even came out several times. He then took out a new star bead and opened a new portal. This frequency shocked everyone. Were there so many secret realms of the Thug Academy? Someone sighed. What's the background of this Thug Academy? With so many secret realms under their control, they are comparable to the aristocratic families. Someone said indifferently, you'll know once you go back and do some research. The prestige of this academy used to be above that of the 7 major sections. Someone said, I've already counted. In the past few days, this group of people has appeared in almost 200 secret realms. This is crazy. Could it be that none of those mystic realms can stop them? Someone sneered. Do you know who these guys are? Han Fei is famous in the unknown place. When he was an intermediate hidden fisher, he killed a law enforcer. Do you think a secret realm that isn't an explorer can stop them? Swish! Han Fei appeared on the trial square. At this moment, he didn't plan to continue. This time, he had a feast for his eyes. There were really all kinds of strange secret realms. There were undersea jungles, sand seas, insect nests, undead creatures, shipwreck ruins, fish-tide canyons. Han Fei couldn't help but sigh. There were really all kinds of strange places in the ocean. After waiting for a full hour, Jiuyin Ling came out. As a law enforcer, Jiuyin Ling's exploration speed was very fast. In particular, she had mastered the seal, which made her almost invincible. After a while, Luo Xiaobai, Zhang Xuanyu, Luren Kuang, and Li Luoluo all came out. Han Fei asked, how is it? How many haven't been explored? Luo Xiaobai shook her head. No. After all, we didn't sweep all the way. We just need to confirm the degree of danger. Zhang Xuanyu curled his lips. I just met an octopus and almost folded myself inside. However, I've cleaned up on my side. Luren Kuang nodded. We've also cleaned up on our side. There are no more than 10 abnormal secret realms in total. Han Fei nodded. Okay, from now on, we'll leave these secret realms to Xingyue and the others. Next, we'll go to the ruins. Those places are different from these ordinary secret realms. Let's go together. Luo Xiaobai nodded. Okay. Li Luoluo added. Actually, I think we can also go to the law enforcer secret realms. After all, we have 6 law enforcers on our side. Luo Xiaobai shook her head. Not for the time being. Through these ordinary secret realms, we can see that ordinary law enforcers can't sweep through them. If the strength of the law enforcer secret realms reaches the level of an advanced or peak-level law enforcer, the danger will be completely uncontrollable. What Luo Xiaobai said was exactly what Han Fei was thinking. At present, he was the only one here who could fight against an advanced law enforcer head-on. As for the peak-level law enforcers, they wouldn't just stand there and call for help. For example, Qixue Huan, even if he called out his strongest weapon, punishing knife, he still couldn't kill him. From this, it could be seen that Han Fei and the others shouldn't set foot in the law enforcer secret realms now. In Han Fei's hands, there were only a total of 18 relic secret realms. 8 of them were law enforcers, which meant that they could only explore the remaining 10 for the time being. As for the order of selection, it was naturally from low to difficult. First, it was the dangling fisher level. Han Fei said, don't think it's too low. Relic secret realms are the most mysterious. There will always be some strange information left in them. Let's look at them one by one. After opening the dangling fisher-level star bead again, they walked in and appeared directly in a sunken ship. In the dark waters, there was a flash of light, and the creatures began to flee. In such a low-level relic, of course, no one would chase them. Lu Rinquang said, Anti-Heaven Blade, have we returned to the level 3 fishery? Luo Xiaobai shook her head. Not necessarily the level 3 fishery. The level 3 fishery and these places are all enclosed by humans. But this doesn't rule out the existence of the anti-heaven blade in the outside world. There are many such waters, and there should be many relatively safe places. Han Fei released his aura, and in an instant, a large number of creatures on this huge, sunken ship were fleeing. There were jumping oncomelania, octopuses hiding in the broken deck, cuttlefish, razor clams, red-browed prawns, and all kinds of starfish. Anyway, at the moment when the aura of the strong pressed down, hundreds of kinds of creatures began to flee frantically. After all, the level of this secret realm was too low, and the creatures here wouldn't be very strong. Luo Xiaobai said, "Don't destroy this secret realm. Leave it to Daji and the others in the future." To them, the danger of this secret realm is definitely not small. Judging from the position of the creatures that had just escaped, ordinary dangling fishers would have to fight all the way in, which was very dangerous. Han Fei nodded. "Yes, we just need to observe carefully. First of all, from the outside, this sunken ship looked very old, and it had a mast. But this thing couldn't be seen on fishing boats nowadays. Looking at the size of this sunken ship, it was more than 300 meters long, which couldn't be compared to today's small, ordinary fishing boats. Just from the appearance, Han Fei could confirm that this ship was the kind of normal ship that he knew, not used for fishing. Besides, there were 2 rows of skeleton-like railings on both sides of the hull. After so many years, it hadn't decayed, revealing the jade-like internal structure. And there was a dragon head on the bow of the ship. Not a real dragon head, but a dragon head like the green wandering flood dragon that Han Fei had seen before. As Luo Xiaobai's vines swept, the hull covered by barnacles and seaweeds was exposed, and delicate patterns could be seen. And these patterns were not only seaweeds, but also various strange beast patterns. Seeing this, Han Fei narrowed his eyes. It's a ship left from ancient times. It seems to have been damaged in battle. However, the hull doesn't decay and has reached the quality of an ultra-quality spiritual weapon. Zhang Xuanyu exclaimed, "F***, this ship is very valuable." Luren Kuang was dumbfounded. "We're rich? We should have come to the ruins earlier." Juyin Ling said, "I've seen similar patterns in some ancient books, but there are very few records." Luo Xiaobai said, "You have to look further. When they obtained this secret realm, it's impossible for the president and the others not to know the value of this ship." However, they didn't move. First of all, the Thug Academy doesn't need to sell ultra-quality spiritual weapons to make a living. What we want to obtain, we have to obtain it through experience. Wealth is just wealth. It doesn't really mean anything. Han Fei nodded. "Yes, excluding the value of the ship itself, there must be something more meaningful inside. Let's split up and look around. It seems that there is no danger here." Chapter 10:13. If he wanted to find the hidden story in this ship, he had to clean this ship first. Therefore, Luo Xiaobai and Li Luoluo played a great role. Luo Xiaobai controlled the spiritual plants to clean, and Li Luoluo cleaned through the insects. It seemed that manipulators had unique talents in certain things. For example, cleaning now. After a while, Han Fei found the main cabin inside the hull. This surprised Han Fei. This was different from the layout of the fishing boat. The place where Han Fei was now could be called the control room, and below was the rest cabin. Han Fei saw the rudder here, which made his eyelids twitch. Han Fei directly passed this cabin and went to the rest room. After a while, he found a jade box in a closed cupboard without having to search at all. In the box, there was a nautical diary. When he saw this nautical diary, Han Fei grinned. Sure enough, humans used to be more like seafarers, not like now, where fishing boats had become a means of travel. And a nautical diary was a must-have for a captain. This box should have been opened, probably by a former student of the Thug Academy. The reason why this nautical diary was left here was in line with the habit of the Thug Academy. When the students in the future had this strength, they could naturally come over and check it themselves. Han Fei took out this box, and everyone immediately surrounded it. Zhang Xuanyu asked in surprise, "What is this?" Han Fei smiled. "A nautical diary." Juyin Ling asked in surprise, "What is a nautical diary?" Considering Juyin Ling's cultivation technique needs, Han Fei explained. In ancient times, the sea was not everything. There are also continents. Some humans needed to explore the sea through large ships. At that time, it was very likely that there were no flying fishing boats. Therefore, the ship we found is very different from a normal fishing boat. And such a big ship needs a captain. In order to record everything on the journey for future reference, the captain needs to make a nautical diary every day. For example, the captain can record the location of some special reefs, which is equivalent to drawing a map. It can also be used to record the voyage every day. This nautical diary is equivalent to a memo. If something happens to this ship, even if people find it thousands of years later, they will know what happened to it at that time. Well, in fact, the nautical diary itself is also an interesting record book. There are often many stories in it. The others were all shocked by what Han Fei said. Was it so complicated for ancient people to sail a ship? Shouldn't fishing be the main purpose of taking notes be the fishing? With that said, Han Fei opened the fish skin map that wrapped the diary. On it was a drawing of the sea route, as well as a description of the land and port. However, this thing had no value now. Because all the places were submerged, this nautical chart was useless. Han Fei threw the nautical chart away, and Luo Xiaobai picked it up. Don't throw it away. Han Fei didn't pay much attention to it, but then he saw that it said Hope Exploration Record, which was the name of the ship. He opened the homepage. There was only a short handwriting on it, written in the captain's handwriting, signed by Lin Song. He was probably the captain of the Hope. Han Fei opened the notebook, and what came into view was Year 13822, Yangji 17th, the Hope departed. This was the title, and the main text was as follows. In just over 10 years, tsunamis broke out everywhere, and countless marine creatures swept through the safe waters. This was not the first time this had happened in history, but this time it was extremely serious. Today, half of the land of Yu City has been overturned. The sea demons attacked, and the cities fought fiercely. The city lord appointed me as the captain of the Hope to go to the Boulder City to ask for help. I don't know if there's still hope for the Hope. Many large ships have been sent before, but none of them returned. Maybe. In any case, I'm a Hope now. I shoulder the Hope, and I will carry the Hope. The first page of the diary was gone. Han Fei turned to the next page. On the second page of the diary, it was written on the 21st of Yangji. Han Fei wasn't sure what Yangji was, but it should be something like a calendar. Lin Song wrote, Today's ocean is too terrifying. We have encountered the biggest blow in history. In a big fish tide, nearly half of the strong masters on the ship died, and 3 law enforcers died. I don't know what to do next. I'm sure of one thing. We encountered the legendary marine races, including murlocs, shrimp soldiers, crab generals, demonic snakes, clam girls. Legend has it that these creatures have been destroyed by the gods. It seems that the gods have deceived us. The enemies that Yu City faces are not just those ordinary sea demons. What we are facing may be countless races that should have lived in the endless deep sea. Fortunately, my strength has reached the explorer level, and I saved the Hope. But tomorrow, I don't know, after reading the second page. Everyone's eyes widened. Luo Xiaobai asked, Gods? Li Luo said in surprise, What is a god? Is it a realm above the king level? Zhou Ling also asked curiously, What kind of creatures are shrimp soldiers and crab generals? What kind of creatures are demonic snakes and clam girls? Han Fei and the others looked at each other, their eyes full of surprise. Is this related to the age of the gods that Olbai mentioned? Han Fei said, Who are these so-called gods? None of us knows. However, the creatures like shrimp soldiers and crab generals might be creatures beyond our knowledge. Isn't it said that there is still the endless sea beyond us? Perhaps there are other living creatures in the distant sea. Who knows? Han Fei didn't explain too much and continued to turn 2 pages, which were all about war. What crisis did they encounter today? What strange things happened? It wasn't until the 5th page that Han Fei and the others paid attention to it. On the 27th of Yangji, we can't stop it anymore. When they saw the words, can't stop it anymore, Han Fei and the others were slightly shocked. It wasn't hard to imagine a scene that even explorers couldn't stop. When this Hope set off, There must be a lot of strong masters accompanying it. However, this also couldn't prevent people from dying every day. It was recorded in the diary. This wasn't an ordinary crisis. It was a crisis that had never been seen before. In this endless sea, there must be a new god rising. I saw a scene that I can never forget in this life. Thousands of creatures are awakening and becoming demons. Their purpose is not just to target you city. I reckon that Boulder City's situation isn't any better. The other party has 3 spirit-breaking and Tao-seeking state powerhouses. I finally know why the strongest person in U City disappeared for no reason. I think it's not that he disappeared, but that he was restricted by a sea monster who has reached the Tao-seeking realm. U City may be destroyed. After writing this line of words, I may die in battle in this vast sea. If the latter can see the diary of the hope, please inform the human beings and find another way to find that legendary place. If they search for that legendary place, perhaps there would still be hope for humanity. Signed, Lin Song. Han Fei hurriedly turned the pages, but the latter part was just as recorded in the diary. After writing this page, Lin Song went to fight. He probably died. And this time, the Hope's plan to ask for help at sea finally failed. Lu Renquang couldn't help asking curiously, isn't he already an explorer? Why didn't he fly there directly but go by sea? Han Fei thought for a moment and said, don't forget, there are strong masters among the sea monsters. If he could fly, do you think Lin Song wouldn't fly? Luo Xiaobai said, there is another possibility. Lin Song's strength is not very strong among the explorers. If the distance between the 2 places is too far, I'm afraid explorers can't fly all the time. Can they? Han Fei shook his head. Not necessarily. Explorers should be able to absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth immediately. Besides, according to what you said, couldn't they just teleport there directly? Why do they have to sail there? Since they can't, it can only mean that these methods were useless at that time, or they were destroyed. Luo Xiaobai suggested, let's look again and see if there is anything else. Han Fei thought for a moment. Among the records on a ship, only the voyage diary should be the most valuable. Han Fei didn't continue looking. But not long after, Juin Ling pulled out a small box and ran to Han Fei's side. Han Fei's eyelids twitched. This box was well preserved. Everyone gathered around again. But as soon as the box was opened, when Han Fei saw the scattered shells, crab pincers, a transparent glass, and a few metal objects, he already understood what it was. Han Fei smiled and said, this is just a simple storage box. I guess it should be a crew member who wanted to bring some gifts back for his children. So, all kinds of things are put here. They are all small toys. As for why they weren't put in the sea-swallowing seashell, it was probably because these things were very common and not worth much. Well, maybe the sea-swallowing seashell is more expensive, and this crew member can't afford it. Juin Ling stuck out her tongue. It seemed that she didn't find anything useful. After a while, no one found anything special. Those decorative engravings were not worth deciphering. So Han Fei said, okay, let's go out. Let's go to the next site. Chapter 10:14. The ruins of a hanging fissure level were completely different from those of a dangling fissure level. In fact, the heavenly desolate city that Han Fei and the others went to should be equivalent to a hanging fissure level site. But once they went back to the past, who knew what kind of ruins it was? Maybe it was not a ruin at all, but a kind of opportunity. At this moment, Han Fei and the others arrived at a hanging fissure level site, which was a very small human gathering place. Undead spirits roared here, but it was of no use to Han Fei and the others. After exploring around, Han Fei and the others found some traces left by human beings. For example, Li Luoluo came out of nowhere with a pair of intact large vases, which surprised Han Fei. Is there porcelain in this place? Of course, Han Fei's answer was, why are you holding 2 jars? Li Luoluo said, don't you think this is very exquisite? Look at the painting, the carving, the posture. Hey, don't go. At this moment, Zhang Xuanyu came over with a rusty rod. He shook his head and said, this is just a trial mystic realm. There's nothing special about it. It's possible that this place was wiped out during a sea demon attack. The third ruin was similar to the second one, except that there were more undead spirits here and they were relatively stronger. Moreover, this place was full of boulders, and there were many tall and damaged buildings with different styles of human faces. Suddenly, Liluoluo shouted again, "Come here, come here." Everyone rushed over, only to find that Liluoluo had dug out a skeleton with insects. However, when they saw the skeleton, they were a little stunned. Ling was surprised. This person's skeleton is so tall. I'm afraid it's 7 or 8 meters tall. Quang said in surprise, "It's not a human being, is it?" Zhang Xuanyu curled his lips and said, "It must be a human being. Look, if it's not a human skeleton, what is it?" Luo Xiaobai said, "Let's look again." After a while, they dug out 2 or 3 such corpses. Among them, the largest skeleton was about 15 meters tall. Han Fei looked at the almost jade-like skeleton and said, "It should be a different human race, the giant clan." Everyone looked at Han Fei and thought, "How do you know everything?" Han Fei said leisurely, "First of all, we confirm that this is a human skeleton. Since they were human skeletons, it could be concluded that they were human. This was an ancient ruin. Not to mention the giant tribe. I wouldn't even be surprised if the dwarf tribe came. Who knows, there might even be those palm-sized humans." Everyone rolled their eyes, and Liluoluo said disdainfully, "A palm-sized dwarf? Wouldn't they be exterminated just like that?" Han Fei said with a smile, "The sea creatures are getting bigger and bigger, but human beings are still going extinct. Different clansmen would definitely have different characteristics. These skeletons are boring to look at. It would be best for everyone to look for some stone carvings or books. Only then will it have archaeological value." An hour later, Zhang Xuanyu suddenly said, "Come here, I found something." Following Zhang Xuanyu, the group ran more than 800 kilometers away. Han Fei was lost for words. How far did this guy run just now? Zhang Xuanyu took Han Fei and the others to a cliff, pointed to the large stone sculptures on the cliff, and said, "Look, they are indeed giants." In the picture, a group of burly giants seemed to be building a city. Some giants moved mountains, and some giants took out giant trees from the sea. Then the picture changed to the scene of the giants eating. And in this picture, there was a strange scene that was the giants would worship a totem after eating. And that totem turned out to be a female figure, which Han Fei and the others were familiar with. It was the statue of the sea god. Zhang Xuanyu smiled and said, "It seems that in ancient times, people began to worship the sea god as soon as they came." Luo Xiaobai suddenly said, "Wait a minute, in the Dharma ending era, there were already people who worshipped the same sea god as us. Then, how long has it been since then?" Luo Xiaobai's question stunned everyone. God knows how long they had worshipped the sea god. Luo Xiaobai said, "Don't forget, just now, when we were reading the nautical diary, we found that it had been more than 10,000 years. And it must have been 10,000 years since the Dharma ending era. Otherwise, there would definitely be a lot of records about the Dharma ending era left by venerable powerhouses. But the fact is they didn't." Han Fei swallowed and said, "This means that the sea god we worship has actually lived for a very, very long time and may not be dead yet." Quang hurriedly said, "Wait, can a god die?" Han Fei rolled his eyes and said, "I'm just thinking, is the so-called sea god a king in the Pioneer Sea state? If it is, then the king has lived for too long. If it isn't, then the realm above the king." Ling suddenly said, "Look at the third picture. It's a war, and there's a particularly tall giant." Everyone hurriedly turned their eyes to the third picture. The giant in the lead was fighting a huge octopus monster. The giant was more than twice as tall as the other giants. According to the height of 15 meters just now, this giant was probably close to 40 meters, right? This giant was holding a huge axe in his hand. Luo Xiaobai said, "I think I've seen him before." Han Fei said, "He's a bit like Yang Diyu. Do you remember his will of the god of war? Isn't it similar to this giant?" Han Fei was already sure that the Yang family must have obtained a secret realm related to the giants and inherited something, such as a bloodline. He was also wondering if the Chao family also had this kind of inheritance. After all, Chao Qiu had the bloodline of the god of war. He didn't seem human at all. Han Fei interpreted. They experienced a battle with sea demons. See? There's a big shell over there. It's the clam girl. However, I don't see shrimp soldiers and crab generals. They seem to be fighting with mollusk creatures. There were a total of 6 pictures. In the 4th picture, the battle was obviously a failure. In order to preserve the bloodline, this giant performed some kind of sacrifice on a newborn baby. In the 5th picture, the clouds in the sky opened and a pair of eyes appeared above the clouds. Seeing this scene, Han Fei's pupils constricted. On the fish skin that Run Tianfei left him, there was a pair of eyes like this. Li Luo couldn't help but shiver. Oh, what a weird eye. In the 6th picture, it was the door of a palace. Where's this palace? Han Fei already had an idea. Immortal Palace. Luo Xiaobai and the others exchanged glances and didn't say anything. Luo Xiaobai said, "Let's go to the next ruin." Unfortunately, the 3rd ruin was still like a battlefield in a village, with many undead spirits. But the undead spirits here were all normal. There were no giants, no stone inscriptions, and no books left. The dangling fisher ruins were explored. The hanging fisher ruins were also explored. There were 6 hidden fisher ruins. Not surprisingly, the degree of danger here would be greater. However, Han Fei and the others had 6 people, so they didn't panic at all. At the same time, in a certain family, someone reported, Han Fei and the others should be cleaning up the secret realms. But today their speed is extremely slow. The 6 of them set off together, and it took them a day to explore 4 secret realms. They should be exploring the ruins. Yes, the ruins of the hidden fisher level shouldn't be a problem for them. They shouldn't be able to explore the ruins of the law enforcers. Don't worry about it for the time being. On the other side, someone also had a similar response. Don't worry about it for the time being. The secret realms left by the Thug Academy are just for testing disciples. Let's wait until they finish exploring all the ruins and enter the galaxy to find new ruins. Someone else responded, "Don't worry. Let's wait for a while and then send someone to see if we can exchange for the ruins from them." In the hidden fisher ruins, this time Han Fei ignored the 3 maps that looked like battlefields and chose 3 architectural ruins. At this moment, Han Fei and the others were standing in a place that looked like a tower-shaped altar. It looked a bit like a pyramid, but Han Fei knew that it wasn't. There were only 5 levels to the altar, and there were exactly 45 steps. At the top, there was a room. Han Fei tried to perceive it, only to find that the entire altar was blocked. Han Fei grinned. "Let me do it." Luo Xiaobai stretched out her hand and tied Han Fei up with vines. Be careful. What Han Fei didn't want to climb the most was a weird place like the altar. These places always contain mysteries. God knew if they would let you enter some illusions, memories, or places of the past. Zhu Ling said, "How about I go? I have a seal." Han Fei shook his head. "It's okay. What are you going to seal with your seal? No one is going to seal it for you." With that, Han Fei had already stepped on the first step. After stepping on the stairs, Han Fei looked back, only to find that everyone was looking at him. It's very real. It seems that I worried too much." Seeing that there was no problem, Han Fei quickly climbed up the steps and went all the way to the top safely. At this moment, he saw a small single mausoleum. Yes, there wasn't even a coffin, only 3 walls and a roof. Therefore, this mausoleum was completely exposed in front of Han Fei. The walls were colorful, as if they were totemic patterns. On the 3 walls, there was a small square pit, which was empty. If there was nothing in it, such a small pit shouldn't have been dug out. It was probably taken away by the seniors of the Thug Academy. And on the ground, there was a corpse. When he saw the corpse, Han Fei's eyelids twitched. This was the kind of corpse that had appeared in the underground city and the undersea chimney. Around the corpse, there were 4 small, human-shaped statues kneeling around as if praying. What were they praying for? Han Fei looked up and saw a pair of scary big eyes painted on the top of the house. F***CK, these eyes again? Chapter 10:15. Last time, Han Fei forgot to ask Ren Tianfei what the eyes on the fish skin painting were. This was the third or fourth time that he had seen these eyes. Even a fool would know what this pair of eyes represented. It was a symbol of extraordinariness. Han Fei stared at the eyes, trying to see if he could find any information from the patterns on the walls around the altar. But for some reason, he felt that his scalp was a little numb and his body was going to have goosebumps. Suddenly, in his vision, he saw that the eyes that were originally carved on the top of the room moved. Originally, the eyes were looking at the corpse on the ground. But at this moment, the eyes were already looking at Han Fei. Gulp! Han Fei swallowed. His invincible heart actually gave birth to the will of resistance. Han Fei suddenly shouted, "Stop pretending to be mysterious. What are you looking at? Come here if you have the guts." Crack, crack, crack. Hum. As soon as Han Fei's voice fell, the corpse that was lying on the ground and was about to decay suddenly stood up. F***CK, they're really coming. Han Fei flew back, looked back, and saw that a few people were frantically gesturing to him. Following the direction of their hand gestures, a pair of blurry eyes appeared in the void above. F***CK. There's one outside too? Swish. Han Fei retreated all the way to the altar. As for the corpse, it quickly caught up to him. This made Han Fei and the others dumbfounded. What the hell is this? It wasn't until Han Fei left the altar that he heard their voices. Zhang Xuanyu asked, "What's this?" Li Luo shouted, "Disperse." Luo Xiaobai shouted, "Get ready to fight." Jiuyin Ling clasped her hand in the air, and a seal appeared. Seal! It could be seen that the corpse paused for a moment. But for some reason, the corpse seemed to have a strange power that helped him break free. Devil Change. Taking advantage of the pause of the corpse, Han Fei activated Devil Change and spread the phantom glass wings. Han Fei shouted, "All of you disperse. I'll fight him." As he spoke, Han Fei's figure directly stuck to the side of the corpse. As the saying goes, those who are skilled are bold. In terms of close-range combat skills, Han Fei was also not weak. At that moment, Han Fei's body was shining with golden light. He grabbed the corpse with one hand and bumped his shoulder. Bang! A violent explosion occurred between the two of them. Han Fei never expected that a corpse could be so powerful. Seal! Instant profound spear. Insect bite. In that instant, everyone exploded with power. Countless tiny vines shot out from the feet of the corpse, wrapping around it. Holding the knife with one hand, Han Fei twisted his body and activated the draw technique at a super close distance. Clang ding, bang. This slash landed solidly on the body of the corpse. Then, the sound it made Han Fei's blood freeze. This thing's corpse is as hard as a mid-quality divine weapon. The corpse was smashed away in an instant. After rolling on the ground for who knows how many times, his chest was pierced by an inch by the tip of the rod. The rod in Zhang Xuanyu's hand was bent like a bow. Roar! The corpse shook, and Zhang Xuanyu was sent flying, rolling dozens of times before he stopped. And the insects that Li Luo tried to drill into the corpse's body were all crushed by the shock. Jiuyin Ling pointed a finger and poked the forehead of the corpse. The corpse was blasted away again and rolled dozens of times on the ground. With a crack, a knife mark appeared on the chest of the corpse, which was just cut by Han Fei. True martial demonic knife. Together with the true martial demonic knife, Han Fei activated the sky swallowing technique. Lu Renquang sucked the corpse with the sky swallowing technique and slashed directly at its head. Clang from Lu Renquang's hand to his body, and then to his face. The recoil force of the slash made him feel what power was. Crack. Fortunately, Lu Renquang's slash was quite violent and directly split the head of the corpse. Han Fei took the opportunity to flash over and use the draw technique again, directly cutting off its arm. Luo Xiaobai immediately understood what Han Fei meant. The vines fastened the limbs of the corpse and tore them apart. Clang, the battle lasted for close to 100 breaths before they managed to get rid of the corpse. And this was under the condition that Han Fei used Devil Change. When Han Fei looked up again, he found that the pair of eyes had disappeared. Zhang Xuanyu kicked the corpse and said, "Wow, it's too hard, isn't it? This corpse is comparable to a divine weapon." Liren Kuang rubbed his stomach and sighed. "More than that, the strength is amazing. Fortunately, we came together. Otherwise, we would have been in danger." Han Fei nodded. "No wonder there are so few high-level secret realms. And this is only a hidden Fisher-level secret realm. Then how strong are the law enforcers?" Luo Xiaobai said, "What did you see up there just now?" Li Luo said, "Yes. Just now you stood there motionless, and then a pair of eyes appeared in the void. It was so scary." Han Fei curled his lips and said, "Nothing, just a pair of eyes. Now, the corpse is useless. Let's go. I'll take you to have a look." After a moment, when Han Fei led everyone to climb the altar, suddenly, Han Fei's eyes widened. Everyone looked at Han Fei speechlessly. Zhang Xuanyu was dumbfounded. "Really? Fei, why is there another corpse?" Han Fei was also dumbfounded. F***CK, let's retreat. After 100 minutes. With the experience just now, everyone cooperated perfectly and killed the corpse. Their faces were full of doubts. Han Fei said with a sullen face, "When I was up there just now, I only saw one corpse. But when I went up with you, I saw another one. If there is no accident, we will still see another corpse if we go up now. The problem is not the corpse, but the eyes." Everyone looked at each other. What kind of weird altar is this? Can the corpses be endless? Luo Xiaobai said, "So it's not that the seniors didn't explore this place, but that they did, but new corpses were found. But what are those eyes? There are also these eyes in the giant's ruins, which seem to be above the clouds." Han Fei nodded. "Let's go to the next place. This relic is only this big. I think it's a building. Who knew it would come here to fight? Let's go to the next one." Han Fei had basically figured out what this treasure trove was for. It was to tell those who came here that these eyes were weird. And this secret realm was to remind everyone to pay attention to them. No matter whether there was anything else worth investigating here or not, this secret realm was still in his hands anyway. There was no need to repeatedly fight with a corpse now. Besides, Han Fei suspected that the source of this corpse was not the plane of the underground city. So he thought of the Immortal Palace. Han Fei still remembered that when he took the source water, the shadow said that the Immortal Palace was full of this kind of corpse puppets. Not only this kind of low-level puppets, but there should even be a lot of explorer-level puppets. Han Fei thought, even if I come to this secret realm again, I can only come alone. Han Fei nodded. "Let's go to the next place." "Wait a minute." Luo Xiaobai interrupted Han Fei. "I have a question." Han Fei asked, Luo Xiaobai looked at the altar and said, "I don't know why, but I always feel that these ruins we have passed are all related. In the ruins of the giants, we saw these eyes. But don't forget, above these eyes, there is an illusory palace." Juyin Ling suddenly said, "By the way, there's something I don't know if I should say." Everyone looked over, and Han Fei couldn't help but say, "Go ahead." Juyin Ling pursed her lips and said, "When I was cultivating the comfort technique, I was once brought into some kind of illusion by a strange power. I once saw a huge floating island that I had never seen before, and there were melodious sounds nearby." Everyone continued to wait. However, Juyin Ling blinked and didn't speak. Han Fei was stunned for a moment. "That's all." Juyin Ling blushed slightly and opened her mouth. "That's all." The corner of Han Fei's mouth twitched. "Okay, that's good news." Juyin Ling blushed and secretly stuck out her tongue. It wasn't easy for her to interject, but it didn't seem to be very effective. Han Fei said, "Xiaobai has a point. If these ruins are all connected, it means that all the ruins in the 1,000-star proving ground are very likely to be connected. More or less, they all involve some secrets about the Age of Doom." Luo Xiaobai said, "If that's the case, then the star beads of our ruins should be very valuable." Han Fei immediately said in distress, "But we can't snatch the ruins of other families." Juyin Ling opened her mouth and slowly said, "There should be a few in my family." Luo Xiaobai also said, "There's some in my family too." Han Fei couldn't help but laugh dryly. "There's no hurry. The purpose of coming to the 1,000-star proving ground this time has been achieved. It's mainly to sweep through the secret realms, which are suitable for Su-Daiji and the others to cultivate. As for exploring the ruins of the Age of Doom, it's just my own interest. Besides, even if we don't have enough ruins, there's still the 3 holy lands to explore. There's no hurry. We have plenty of time to do these things. In fact, Hanfei already had a guess in his heart. If this pair of eyes could bring out a corpse, would it be possible for them to bring a person up? If his guess was right, then the so-called 1,000-star testing field and the 8-star and 9-star secret realms might appear directly in the Immortal Palace. In Hanfei's opinion, these ruins might also be a kind of spatial channel that allowed one to come and go freely. So, it didn't matter where he went. Why couldn't it directly lead to the Divine Palace? Chapter 10:16. 3 days later, they had been in the 1,000-star proving ground for nearly 10 days. Unfortunately, not every ruin had secrets to explore. For example, among the remaining hidden fissure-level sites, 2 had completely collapsed and were basically worthless. Instead, he found a coffin in a battlefield relic that Hanfei was least optimistic about. This was also the last ruin that everyone could explore at this level. Apart from the location of the coffin, there were signs of collapse everywhere in the ruins. This place used to look like an earthen city, but it was blasted into dregs during the battle. It was a scene of desolation. Zhang Xuanyu said, "Such a violent fighting style? I think it should be done by one of our own. I mean, the seniors of our Thug Academy once fought here and destroyed this place." Hanfei asked, "Then why is this coffin the only thing left?" At this moment, everyone was standing before the coffin. There were some strange patterns carved on the outside of the coffin. These patterns basically covered the entire coffin. Coupled with the inlaid gold and jade lines, it made the coffin look extremely noble. The patterns on the coffins were even more interesting. There were 20 of them, and Hanfei could basically recognize all of them. There were crocodiles, houses, snakes, deer, rabbits, flowing water, skeletons, wolf heads, apes, leaves of grass, giant eagles, flowers. There were also a few that he did not recognize. Perhaps these creatures were relatively rare. The first thing that came to Hanfei's mind when he saw this kind of relief was the stone carvings of ancient humans. In the past, to his knowledge, the most famous ancient human stone inscription was the Sunstone inscription, also known as the Sunstone. It was a calendar that recorded time. It was usually in the shape of a disc, like the heavenly stems and earthly branches. However, you insisted on carving it on the coffin. I wonder if there's any meaning behind it. Could it be that a noble coffin was no longer a coffin? Wasn't he still dead? What was the point of being so luxurious? Clearly, the stone inscription on the coffin was not a calendar. The pictures of these small animals were quite strange. Could it be the result of a hunt? Hanfei pondered carefully and found feeble waves of energy and spiritual energy around the coffin. That feeling was like a human breathing. This feeling was very weak, but Hanfei and the others were all about to become law enforcers. It was impossible that they couldn't even feel this. Lurenquang swallowed. Are we going to open it or not? Li Luoluo bared her teeth and said, "Why didn't the seniors of the Thug Academy open it before? Why are you leaving them for us?" Juyin Ling suddenly said, "It must have been opened." Everyone looked at him, and Hanfei said, "You know about it again?" Juyin Ling blushed and said, "You know my cultivation technique. Although it's changed, I can still vaguely hear some strange sounds. First, I could hear the faint breathing of someone inside the coffin. Another one, I seem to be able to see some blurry images from this place. It seems like someone had opened this coffin before, and there seemed to be a woman sleeping inside. I don't know why it was sealed again." The others looked at each other in bewilderment. "What's this? Foresight?" Hanfei raised his eyebrows. "Is it the carefree technique?" Juyin Ling nodded slightly. "Yes, although it's been abandoned, it still retains some of its characteristics. In the past, the natural law could be connected to the music of the world and could see a trace of fog from the music." Hanfei couldn't help but ask, "Is the woman inside still alive?" Juyin Ling shook her head. "I don't know, but I think since she's breathing, she should still be alive." Li Luoluo said, It's getting more and more mysterious. Aren't we here to explore the secret realm? How we become grave robbers? Luo Xiaobai said, since we've opened it, let's open it. Han Fei nodded. Be careful. Once something goes wrong, use the secret method immediately. Fatty, help me open the coffin gently. The flesh on Lu Rinquang's face trembled, and he couldn't help but complain, why is it always me? Zhang Xuanyu smiled and said, otherwise, why would you let girl come? As Han Fei and Lu Rinquang lifted the coffin lid, they looked at each other. This coffin lid was so heavy. Han Fei said, maybe there's a gravity array under this coffin lid. It's okay. Move it first. When the two of them gently moved the coffin lid, the first thing that appeared in the coffin was a pair of bare feet with tender white skin. Then there was a delicate calf. Then there was a green gauze dress. It's really a woman. Everyone looked at each other. When Han Fei and Lu Rinquang moved the coffin lid away, they looked back and found that it was a girl with a delicate face, about 20 years old. In terms of appearance, she was quite cute. Her face was slightly chubby, and her hands were crossed on her abdomen. Under the girl's hands, there was a jade slip. Seeing this, everyone looked at each other. There must be a lot of information in this jade slip. Han Fei couldn't help but ask, should we take it or not? Luo Xiaobai rolled her eyes at Han Fei. Who should I ask? Han Fei smiled and said, okay, then let's take it. I don't believe that this woman can still come back to life. Juyin Ling said, then why didn't the previous seniors take it? Han Fei and the others were stunned by this question. Who would know? Han Fei said, I'm not afraid. Let me touch it and try to read the information in this jade slip. Luo Xiaobai suggested, shall I? Let me try with spiritual plants first. Han Fei nodded. This was better than directly grabbing it. Luo Xiaobai summoned a grass vine and slowly extended it to the jade slip. Seeing that the woman didn't react at all, everyone was relieved. However, Luo Xiaobai frowned and said, I can't read any information from the jade slip. Everyone knew that Luo Xiaobai could parasitize vines and make spiritual plants a part of her. Was this jade slip useless? Han Fei directly reached out. Since Luo Xiaobai couldn't read anything, there shouldn't be a big problem. Han Fei gently moved the woman's hand away and pointed at the jade slip with one finger. Master! F***CK. Han Fei suddenly withdrew his hand and saw that Lu Rinquang and the others all activated secret techniques. Zhang Xuanyu asked nervously, what's wrong? Han Fei glanced at the woman lying in the coffin and said after a long time, it's okay. It's a jade slip. Why don't you try to check it with your finger? Li Luo was speechless. You scared us to death. Do you know that it's easy to scare people to death? Luo Xiaobai was also speechless. Just now, she almost used a secret technique. Juyin Ling's seal had already condensed in her hand. Zhang Xuanyu said with a constipated look, let me do it. Han Fei nodded. It's not a big deal. Just put your finger on this jade slip and see what happens. Zhang Xuanyu glanced at Han Fei. Maybe Han Fei was just scaring people. It must be okay. If there was something wrong, would he ask me to check it? Zhang Xuanyu slowly stretched out his finger and put on the jade slip. However, after a while, Zhang Xuanyu said, there's no reaction. Li Luo nodded. Let me try. After a while, Li Luo shook her head. I really can't see anything. Is it because this jade slip is too old and useless? Luo Xiaobai shook her head slightly. It should be impossible. Then, Juyin Ling, Lu Rinquang, and the others also tried, but there was no reaction. Dubiously, Han Fei stretched out his finger again and pointed at the jade slip. This time, the same voice sounded. Master, is that you? Han Fei's pupils constricted and his fingers froze. Luo Xiaobai and the others were stunned. Zhang Xuanyu scolded with a smile. Don't pretend. None of us have any reaction. But you do? Do you think this is your daughter-in-law? However, Han Fei ignored Zhang Xuanyu. He tried to infuse his spiritual power into the jade slip. Who are you? Suddenly, Han Fei sensed an excited spiritual power touching him. The spiritual power conveyed a message. Master, are you back? I've been waiting for you for a long time. Han Fei said, well, Miss, I guess I am not your master. You may have been lying in bed for tens of thousands of years, but I am only 20 years old. That psychic power suddenly shook. Impossible. If you're not my master, how can you have my bloodline power? Suddenly, the spiritual power moved again. Ah, master, have you been reincarnated? Han Fei was dumbfounded. Are you kidding me? Can I go back to Earth after I'm reborn? However, Han Fei immediately grasped a key piece of information. Luo Xiaobai and the others couldn't perceive it, but he could. What was the power of the bloodline that this woman was talking about? The only thing Han Fei could think of was the source water. He had met the ninth palace master through the source water. If there was a connection, this was the only one he could think of. Han Fei rolled his eyes and said, I'm not sure. Since I am your master, do you know where I came from? The spiritual power was shaking. Of course, it's the yin-yang heaven. Master, haven't you recovered your memory? Don't worry, master. Maybe your strength hasn't recovered to a certain level. My memories will definitely be reopened. Han Fei said, Yin-yang heaven? Are you talking about the ninth immortal palace? Yes, master. Since you went to spy on the heavenly way, many things have happened. The eye of the heavenly way descended and covered the foundation of the great way of this world. The consciousness of the guardian puppets in the immortal palace was erased by the eye of the heavenly way. As he spoke, Han Fei clearly felt that the spiritual power was a little sad. There were not many people in the immortal palace. The puppets rioted and Sister Shui died in the battle. In order to prevent the war in the immortal palace from affecting the Thousand-Star City, the controller directly blocked the central holy city of the Thousand-Star City, restored the three holy lands, and cut off the connection between the immortal palace and the Thousand-Star City. Because Ci was weak, she was sent away from the Thousand-Star City by the controller. But because she was too seriously injured, she was attacked by a villain surnamed Chu in the Thousand-Star City. As a last resort, she could only reincarnate. Han Fei's blood froze. The eye of the heavenly way? Was that the pair of eyes he saw? A pair of eyes actually blocked the foundation of the great way of the entire yin-yang heaven? This was probably the reason why the people in the Thousand-Star City couldn't reach the king realm. Also, what was this woman's reincarnation? However, there was one piece of information that Han Fei knew. Chu. Who else in the Thousand-Star City was surnamed Chu except for the Chu sect? Chapter 10:17. After the woman said that it was the Chu sect who attacked her, Han Fei immediately understood a lot. Why didn't the Chu sect rob the sea-quelling painting? It seemed that the Chu sect had been exploring the Thousand-Star Proving Ground. Why? Was their purpose to find this coffin and this woman? At this moment, Han Fei already knew that those big clans only knew that the sea-quelling painting had an opportunity to become a king. And the opportunity they thought might be different from what he got. What he got was the source water, while what they thought should be going to the Divine Palace through the sea-quelling painting. Therefore, the Divine Palace was their ultimate goal. And the people of the Chu sect had long known about this woman. It could even be said that they had successfully ambushed her while she was unprepared, allowing her to escape into the Star River mystic realm. So, they had been looking for her. How could finding the sea-quelling painting be more direct than finding this woman? Even if they found the sea-quelling painting, they might not be able to go to the Divine Palace. But the chances of finding this woman and going to the Divine Palace were much higher than finding the sea-quelling painting. After all, this woman came down from the Divine Palace. Besides, Han Fei also thought of one thing. Old Bai said that the Thug Patriarch had been to the Divine Palace. So, was the extermination of the Thug Academy related to this? Because the Thug Patriarch had been to the Divine Palace, the big clans of the Thousand-Star City, or the Chu sect, thought that the woman had been caught by the Thug Academy, so they came to attack the Thug Academy. In fact, their real purpose was to get the star bead of the Thug Academy. Also, the reason why they crippled Ren Tianfei was probably not just because Ren Tianfei brought the sea-quelling painting down from the Divine Palace, right? Perhaps they also wanted to learn the way to the Divine Palace through Ren Tianfei. As for Old Han, this guy had always been mysterious. Others might not know that he had been to the Divine Palace. In any case, this woman was calling a master. You should take advantage of this opportunity to get information out of her. Han Fei thought that this trip to the Thousand-Star City would be very difficult. What Thousand-Star testing ground? What 3 holy lands? What central holy city? It felt like every single place was very impressive. But who knew? In the ruins left by Old Bai, he could find the people of the Divine Palace. Old Bai probably didn't expect that he could talk to this girl. Han Fei immediately asked, "What's your name?" "Master, you can call me Ci, or Shao Ci. That's what you used to call me." "Little Ci, that Chu guy you mentioned, is he from the Chu sect?" The Truman Show? He had never heard of this faction. "However, I know that person's surname is Chu. They destroyed a part of Ci's divine soul and stole his star shell." Han Fei thought to himself, the Chu men must have become the Chu men later. The Chu clan was built on Shao Ci's legacy. Son of a bitch. No wonder the Chu sect was so keen on the Thousand-Star Proving Ground. It looked like they had obtained too many benefits and wanted to continue reaping benefits from Little Ci. "Little Ci, how do I enter the Immortal Palace?" Shao Ci's consciousness trembled for a moment. "Master, what's your current strength?" Han Fei said straightforwardly, "I'm on the path of invincibility, so it's very difficult for me to make progress. I've just become a peak-level hidden fisher and am about to become a law enforcer." "Ah, Master, you actually chose the path of invincibility?" Han Fei couldn't help but ask, "What's wrong with the path of invincibility?" Shao Ci's spiritual power seemed a little nervous. She hurriedly said, "Master, it is said that the path of invincibility is a path of no return. It is said that there is no invincibility in this world. In history, less than 1 out of 10 people who embarked on the path of invincibility survived. Why did you choose this path?" F***CK. Han Fei was dumbfounded. "What do you mean? Invincible was such an awesome path. Could it be that it was so miserable?" However, Han Fei said indifferently, "Heaven and earth are heartless and treat all things as dogs. Since I embarked on this path, I have my own karma. Okay, Little Ci, how do I go to the Immortal Palace?" Han Fei felt that he just needed to brag a little. If he bragged too much, he might expose himself. Shao Ci was silent for a moment and said, "Master, I'm afraid you can't go to the Immortal Palace for the time being." Han Fei said, "I know I'm not strong enough, but I really need to know how to go there. After learning the way, I have to find a way to go to the Waterwood Heaven to survive the tribulation and become an explorer. The person who hurt you has now become a force, called the Chu sect, which is guarded by a venerable. If I don't leave and become a law enforcer in the Yin-Yang Heaven, I may be in danger of dying." Huh? Her spiritual power fluctuated violently. "Those bastards surnamed Chu. How dare they hurt you, Master?" Little Ci. Han Fei hurriedly said, "Don't get excited. I have my ways to deal with them. I know there are many puppets in the Immortal Palace, and the source water is there. So, I won't give the Chu sect a chance. When I know the way to the Immortal Palace, I will quickly become a law enforcer and undergo the tribulation in the Waterwood Heaven. Once I succeed, I will cultivate for a while and become a venerable. Then I will destroy all these big clans." Shao Ci's spiritual power fluctuated. "You must destroy them, ruthlessly. Master, in fact, after you awaken your memory, you will naturally know the way to the Immortal Palace. However, these 2 methods are too difficult now. One is the level 9 secret realm in the galaxy, which is your daily cultivation place. However, with your current strength, I'm afraid you can't go there in a short time through this method, because your strength will at least need to reach the peak of the Venerable Realm." Han Fei rolled his eyes. "The peak of the Venerable Realm? Are you King kidding me? If I really cultivate to the peak of the Venerable Realm, I can overturn these big clans by myself. At that time, I will have plenty of time and ways to enter the Immortal Palace." Han Fei couldn't help but ask, "What about the other one?" Shao Ci said, "Go to the central holy city. However, with Master's current strength, I'm afraid it will be a little difficult. However, since Master has embarked on the path of invincibility, it won't be difficult for you to go to the Sky Meditation Garden and the Ideal Palace. Only the God's Memorial Tower may take some effort, but the entrance to the central holy city is guarded by a clone of the controller. It may be very difficult. Han Fei's heart did a flip. What's the strength of the controller's clone? Xiao Ci said, I don't know how long it has been. The controller seems to have been injured. I don't know what level his strength has fallen to. However, he is at least a beginner venerable. Han Fei immediately felt terrible. Are you King kidding me? A peak level venerable and a beginner venerable. I can't go to either of them. Xiao Ci said. Also, Xiao Ci doesn't know if Master still remembers the killing arrays in the central holy city. Those killing arrays were all set up by the controller. But if Master awakens, everything will be easy. The controller will definitely recognize Master. By then, Master will be able to walk into your back garden. It'll be fine. Han Fei heaved a long sigh in his heart. Most importantly, I'm not your King Master. This is so difficult. Han Fei couldn't help but feel a headache. Based on Xiao Ci's words, there were only two ways to enter the Immortal Palace. The first way was basically impossible for a while. The peak of the Venerable Realm was no joke. As for the second way, it seemed that he had to pass the 3 Holy Lands and enter the central holy city from the God's Memorial Tower. After reaching the central holy city, he had to defeat the controller's clone and pass some killing arrays. Sigh. Why is life so difficult? On the side, Zhang Xuanyu exclaimed, Han Fei, are you trying to take advantage of him? You've been holding that jade slip for a long time. Han Fei glanced at Zhang Xuanyu and then asked telepathically, Xiao Ci, then when will this reincarnation you're cultivating be completed? Xiao Ci replied, Master, almost half of my soul has been shattered. Why use the secret method to reincarnate? I was only an early-stage explorer. If I want to be resurrected this time, I need a lot of ownerless souls. Otherwise, I need a lot of things that can revive me. Otherwise, I'm afraid it will take a long time. Han Fei thought that if he could resurrect this Xiao Ci, then maybe he could take her to the God's Memorial Tower with him. At that time, when the controller saw her, he would probably let her in at any time. However, he didn't have either of the two things that Xiao Ci wanted. These were all extremely rare treasures. How could they be obtained so easily? Han Fei said, Xiao Ci, then wait a few years. When I return from the Waterwood Heaven, enter the Immortal Palace, and regain control of the Immortal Palace, I will resurrect you. When I return from the Waterwood Heaven, enter the Immortal Palace, and regain control of the Immortal Palace, I will resurrect you. Xiao Ci replied excitedly, Yes, Master. Xiao Ci will wait for you here. However, Master, although you have a good relationship with the Palace Master of the Waterwood Heavenly Palace, will she covet your power because you are still weak? Han Fei raised his eyebrows. Are the masters of the Waterwood Heavenly Palace very close to the masters of the Yin-Yang Heavenly Palace? Wait, from what little Ci said, the Palace Master of Waterwood Sky is still alive. Han Fei thought about it. How many years has Xiao Ci been lying in bed? Perhaps that person from the Shuemu Heaven had also died. As for being coveted, Han Fei was not worried at all. What could someone who was at least at the Sea Expansion realm covet from me? Perhaps there were many explorers from Shuemu Sky. He might not care at all. Han Fei thought for a moment and immediately replied, Don't worry. Since I dare to go, I'm not afraid that anything will go wrong. After all, I'm not even sure if I'm the Yin-Yang Sky Palace Master. Xiao Ci nodded. It must be. There's no way little Ci is mistaken. There are 2 paths of Yin and Yang in your body. Otherwise, we won't be able to wake little Ci up. Han Fei was stunned again. Wait, what do you mean Yin and Yang? 2 paths of Yin and Yang. This is the strongest talent of our Yin-Yang Sky. No one can have it except the Palace Master. Han Fei smacked his lips. Is she talking about Little Black and Little White? Besides, after taking the Origin Water, he did have a second spiritual heritage. Han Fei couldn't help but ask, then what do you know about this 2 paths of Yin and Yang? I don't remember this at all. Xiao Ci was silent for a moment. Well, I don't know either, but I know that this is the talent of the Palace Master. Han Fei grinned. Forget it. If you don't know, then you don't know. In any case, there had been a lot of strange things that had happened to him. He didn't know who had schemed against him. Anyway, he had been schemed against. Without that strength, he probably couldn't change the situation. Immediately, Han Fei said, "Little Ci, then you can rest here with peace of mind. The day I regain control of the immortal palace will be the day you are resurrected." Xiao Ci's spirit fluctuated violently. "Yes, master." Chapter 10:18. Han Fei felt that he was so awesome now that he recruited people everywhere. In the sea-quelling painting, he recruited 5 big shots. In an irrelevant place, he recruited another big shot who used to belong to the immortal palace. Half of her soul had been destroyed, but she still had the strength of an explorer and knew the method of reincarnation. At first glance, she must have been a very strong and powerful existence. Needless to say, he should have been a beginner venerable in the past, right? Han Fei retracted his hand and said with a contemplative expression, "All right, close the coffin lid, everyone." Li Luoluo wondered, "Han Fei, are you serious? You're acting all high and mighty, but you clearly can't feel anything." Zhang Xuanyu also said contemptuously, "Yes, we can't. Maybe this girl is a senior sister of our thug academy. Let's not rush to cover the coffin. Why don't you try calling her? Anyway, she doesn't seem to be a threat. If she is a senior sister of our academy, we can't just leave her here." Han Fei rolled his eyes and said, "Look at the shape of this coffin. What era is this thing from? Let me tell you, right now, he might be in a deep sleep, brewing something. It's fine to take a look at the jade slip, but if you really pull her up, she may wake up and kill you." With that said, Han Fei had already carried the coffin lid and sealed the coffin. What Han Fei said was true. When he had a chance, he would definitely resurrect Xiao Ci. In this way, not only would he have a thug, but he would also have a personal guide. Well, since she believed that he was her master, then so be it. Since she didn't mind, what else could he dislike? Han Fei said, Okay, I think we've explored enough. To put it bluntly, anything in the Age of Doom can become a relic. God knows how many relics there are. Besides, we only have so many relics in our hands. In the future, when we are strong enough to at least become law enforcers, we can explore them again. Zhu Ling nodded. Yes, these relics are indeed not of much use for the time being. What's really useful are level 7 secret realms. Han Fei said, "Okay, now that things have come to this point, we've seen all the secret realms that can be seen. Let's go back to school." The outside world. When they came out, some people had left quietly, and some people had been watching them. But the situation of finding fault like last time did not happen. He seemed to know that this was the worst time to stir up trouble. However, even if he didn't pick a fight now, he would pick one in the future. Therefore, in the minds of the great clans, they were merely waiting. As for their final destination, if nothing went wrong, it would be the ruins. In school, Crackle. When he came back, he saw Su Daiji twisting her body in a weird posture, with her head on the ground and one hand spinning the Rubik's Cube. Han Fei immediately shouted, "Su Daiji, what are you doing?" Bang! Su Daiji was shocked. She directly lay on the ground, quickly put away the Rubik's Cube, and began to continue practicing the 108 spirit-absorbing war bodies. Because when Han Fei left, he left enough body refining medicine, enough for them to cultivate for a month. Therefore, he was not afraid that they had nothing to do. Su Daiji somehow became a level 9 fisher on her own. Luo Xiaobai said, "It's time to awaken Daji's talent, right? Her strength seems to be improving very fast. Usually this time is enough." Han Fei nodded. After the test, seeing that Han Fei and the others were back, everyone was refining their bodies. Only Ishiyin pretended to be weak. Han Fei glanced at Zhang Xuanyu. "Ishiyin, come here." Zhang Xuanyu pointed at his nose. "Me? You are the acting president." The nine-tailed mantis shrimp suddenly appeared in the open space. After adapting to the sea for a long time, the nine-tailed mantis shrimp was usually dozens of meters long. Therefore, when it appeared at this moment, Ishiyin and the others were startled. Seeing that the nine-tailed mantis shrimp was about to pounce on him, Han Fei kicked him. Become smaller, 3 meters. The nine-tailed mantis shrimp quickly became smaller and then rubbed against Han Fei's leg. Han Fei pointed at Ishiyin and Su Daiji and said, "Yes, just keep an eye on them. Whoever is lazy will be slapped. Remember to use less strength. Just use level 7 or level 8 strength. Ishiin said aggrievedly, "Darling smack." Ishiin didn't even see what was happening. Suddenly, a chain appeared in the void and whipped her butt. Don't forget, the nine-tailed mantis shrimp was an authentic legendary creature. This slap directly made Ishiin, an intermediate fishing master, lie on the ground, screaming. Han Fei snorted. "Who told you to be lazy? Even your husband can't save you. If he dares to save you, I'll slap him too." Zhang Xuanyu quickly pointed at Han Fei and said, Hey, I'm still a pure teenager. Don't blame me for everything. And Ishiin, behave yourself and call me senior brother." Ishiin didn't dare to speak because the big shrimp was already in front of her at this moment. Now, her face turned blue and white. Although Ishiin was naughty, she still knew what she was doing. He was also aware of the severity of the matter. Senior brother Han Fei said that this big shrimp slapped her with level 7 or level 8 strength, but she didn't take it seriously just now. But after this blow, she felt that even the strength of level 7 or level 8 seemed to surpass her. Ishiin couldn't help but swallow. What level of contractual spiritual beast is this? Why is it so powerful? Han Fei was very satisfied with his current state and said to the nine-tailed mantis shrimp, "See that? It's that little guy. If she secretly plays with the Rubik's Cube again, I'll slap him." Su Daiji shuddered slightly, then started to train methodically. At this moment, Han Fei said, "The 5 of you, have you practiced the 108 spirit-absorbing war bodies once?" Xingyu nodded. "Senior brother, I've already practiced it once. It's just that it took a little long." Han Fei nodded secretly. This was indeed a little difficult. To be able to complete all the postures in 10 days, it was enough to show that these people were very talented. At least, he had obtained the incomplete monograph on 108 ways of body tempering. With his aptitude back then, he couldn't even practice it once and would be exhausted to death. Compared to now, Han Fei felt that they were really lucky. Luo Xiaobai said with a serious face, "Xingyu, Su Sanxian, test paper." As he spoke, 2 vines had already stretched out in front of them. The 2 of them quickly stopped and took out their test papers. Hence, Han Fei and the others gathered together and began to comment. Luren Kuang took a look. "They're all full." Zhang Xuanyu commented, "It's a little different from what I expected." Han Fei said, "It's also a little different from what I expected." In Han Fei's opinion, Su Sanxian had been suppressed for a long time and knew the fickleness of human nature. Therefore, his emotions were inevitably a little indifferent. As for Xingyu, he lived in a normal family. Therefore, his personality should be more conservative. However, from the results of the answers, Su Sanxian seemed to be more willing to help others. Xingyu, on the other hand, was awesome. This kid was actually a little similar to Han Fei and the others. He actually liked to rob. Everyone looked at Han Fei. "Both of you are spirit gatherers. Both of you are soul warriors. And both of you like to rob. This kid is good." Li Luo didn't care about this. After Joanne Ling finished reading, she said indifferently, "I think Sanxian is quite good." Han Fei, Zhang Xuanyu, and Luren Kuang chuckled at the same time. Luo Xiaobai said, "Xingyu, you will be the captain of this team in the future. You need to cultivate your sense of command. Su Sanxian, you are a manipulator. You can't be impulsive at critical moments. You need to listen to orders." Su Sanxian nodded hard. "Yes, senior sister." Xingyu was a little surprised. He had secretly compared answers with Su Sanxian. Originally, he felt a little embarrassed and felt that he definitely couldn't compare to Su Sanxian. But why was he the captain? Joanne Ling didn't understand, but Han Fei gave her a look, indicating that he would talk about it later. Han Fei said, "From now on, everyone will cultivate the 108 spirit-absorbing war bodies once, and then come to the back mountain." With that said, Han Fei kicked the nine-tailed mantis shrimp. "Watch. Whoever slacks off, beat them up." On the back mountain, seeing Joanne Ling's puzzled expression, Han Fei immediately said, "You stayed in the heavenly water village before, so you must have gone to the ordinary fishery. Have you seen the competition for resources between the villages?" Joanne Ling nodded. Yes, it's a little cruel. Han Fei sneered. The ocean is just that cruel. Except for the Thousand-Star City, the 36 towns, and all the villages teach this. On the path of cultivation, benevolence is the most dangerous. From the beginning, you were fighting with sea creatures, but you shouldn't have fought many humans. Therefore, you don't know how sinister the human heart is. Han Fei said leisurely. With Su Sanqian's personality, don't let the Su family ruin him. That won't be good. I'll leave it to you. Zhang Xuanyu was stunned. Me again? Han Fei patted his shoulder and said, communication has always been your forte. At this moment, Luren Kuang had already started cooking. He interrupted and said, should we groom the next generation of chefs? Han Fei's expression turned serious. That makes sense. Who do you think is the most suitable? Guqi, is there need to ask? Han Fei grinned. I'll listen to you. Han Fei and the others were talking nonsense. Jiu Yinling was thinking about what Han Fei had just said when she saw a short man running towards the back mountain. Luo Xiaobai exclaimed in surprise and looked at Han Fei. Less than an hour. Han Fei was also a little surprised. Is Su Daji the kind of person who is born to temper her body? This speed is amazing. Chapter 1019. Han Fei had already noticed that Su Daiji was different. After all, in such a strange world, there might be many heavenly talents with seemingly low-level spiritual heritages like Su Daiji. They might be mediocre all their lives, but once they pass that period, it would be very difficult for them to rise again. Su Daiji was lucky that she met Han Fei and the others before her talent was revealed. At this moment, the girl held the magic cube in one hand and looked at Han Fei. Just when she was about to play with the magic cube, Han Fei stopped her. Han Fei said, Daiji, don't finish it. I'll awaken it for you. Su Daiji blinked her eyes, then put away the Rubik's Cube, looking eager to try. Although she didn't like to talk, it didn't mean that she didn't know anything. She had been envious of the spiritual awakening for a long time. Luo Xiaobai pointed her finger, and a giant vine broke out of the ground and dug a small pool more than 2 meters deep on the ground. Han Fei stretched out his hand and grabbed a large section of the water in the small river in the college and poured it directly into the pool. Han Fei said, Daiji, go in and sit at the bottom of the pool. Don't come out. After Su Daiji jumped into the pool, Han Fei said, how much spirit awakening fluid does it take to awaken the spiritual awakening fluid? The few of them looked at each other. None of them knew. Suddenly, the elusive Ku Shui appeared. He said, under normal circumstances, 1,000 kilograms is enough for 1,000 people. But those with good talent can absorb more. For heavenly talents, at least 10 kilograms is enough. Han Fei asked, what will happen if I put more? Ku Shui hesitated for a moment and said, it shouldn't be a big problem. It won't have any negative effect on the body. Han Fei grinned. Then put 100 kilograms first. If it's not enough, I'll put more. Ku Shui staggered slightly and thought to himself, forget it, pretend I didn't say anything. Han Fei reached out and threw a large mass of spirit awakening fluid into the pool. All of a sudden, the water in the pond turned dark green. At this time, Han Fei and the others naturally couldn't help and could only wait by the side. Even Luren Kuang, who was cooking, stopped for fear of disturbing Su Daiji. 100 minutes. 1 incense stick's worth of time. Han Fei couldn't help but frown. How can she stay in the water for so long? Jiu Yinling said, Daji's endurance is very good. Li Luo said, I remember that I seemed to have persisted for more than half an hour. Han Fei remembered that he seemed to have persisted for a long time. However, unlike him, Su Daiji didn't absorb much of the spirit awakening fluid, and the colors seemed to be only a little lighter. After another half an hour, Li Luo shouted, look, the color is fading. Before Li Luo said anything, they had already seen it. The color was fading, but the speed at which it was fading was too fast. In just 10 seconds, more than half of the spirit awakening fluid had been consumed, and the dark green had turned into light green. Han Fei's eyes widened. What's going on? She had absorbed so much spirit awakening fluid all by herself. Luo Xiaobai explained, it slowed down. It absorbed more than half of the spirit awakening fluid at that moment. Now it has stabilized. As Luo Xiaobai said, in the next 10 minutes, Su Daiji's body emitted some yellow light. It looked like the light measured by the spiritual heritage testing stone. The color of the light happened to correspond to the yellow of a level 3 high-quality spiritual heritage. Luo Xiaobai suddenly let out a sigh of relief and said, "It's not that the spiritual heritage testing stone didn't measure it, but that Daji's spiritual heritage is originally this color." Then, in the dark yellow light, a pincer stretched out. Lu Renquang wondered, "Lobster? Wait, there's a tuft of yellow-green fluff on the pincer." But then a flat head popped out. Everyone realized that it was a scorpion. The scorpion seemed to break free from some shackles and crawled out with all its might. On the scorpion's feet, there were circles of black circles, and there was a tuft of yellow-green fluff on its head and tail. In Han Fei's eyes, information emerged. Name, Sand King, Su Daiji's spiritual beast. Introduction, an ancient ferocious beast that inherits the bloodline of sand. It can freely control sand and stones and dig the ground extremely fast. It is covered with sand armor and has an extremely strong defense. The Sand King is proud and aloof. When fighting, it can use the power of the earth and is suitable for underwater or ground combat. Level 1, Quality Legendary, contains spiritual energy greater than 500 points, food, insects, fish, sand, and stones. Remarks when he saw this information. Han Fei couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. "I found a treasure." Sand King? Look, the name sounds domineering enough. It's a legendary creature. Although it seems to be a little inferior to Little Black and Little White, it's definitely high enough. Chao Chio's bloodline of the god of war is good enough, right? Isn't it also a legendary creature? Legend and him had nothing to do with each other. In Han Fei's knowledge, except for Tang Ji's white dragon feather lobster, among all the people he knew, the one with the highest spiritual beast was a legendary one. Even Lu Renquang's deep blue roar was obtained later. Besides, Lu Renquang rarely used the deep blue roar, which should be a reason. Now, Su Daiji's spiritual beast was a legendary one. It could almost be said that her talent was probably comparable to that of Chao Chio and the others. After all, Su Daiji also had a spiritual heritage that could grow. Even if her bloodline was not awakened, it was already commendable. Bam! Su Daiji suddenly opened her eyes and popped out of the water. When she saw a small yellow-green scorpion, she immediately puffed up her mouth, looking very disgusted. Han Fei rolled his eyes. "Why are you still disgusted? You've already won at the starting line, okay? Some people were born at the starting line, and some people were born at the finishing line." In Han Fei's opinion, Su Daiji was born at the finishing line. Before Han Fei could think of what to say, he heard Luo Xiaobai take a breath and say, "I seem to have seen this creature before." Everyone looked over. Su Daiji also looked over. Luo Xiaobai looked at Ku Shui and said, "Grandpa Ku, is this?" Ku Shui nodded with a serious expression. "Yes, it should be." "Oh, what are you talking about? What's the difference between spiritual beasts?" Li Luo couldn't wait any longer and was a little impatient. Zhang Xuanyu also said, "Is it very advanced?" Luo Xiaobai stared at Sand King and said, "I've read about it in ancient books. If I'm not mistaken, this is an ancient ferocious beast, a legendary creature, Sand King." Han Fei raised his eyelids and deliberately asked, "What kind of creature is Sand King?" Luo Xiaobai said, "It's recorded in ancient books. In ancient times, ferocious beasts ran rampant. At that time, there was a world of sand, not the so-called Sea of Sand. It was the real Sea of Sand in the early days. There lived a group of terrifying creatures with earth-shattering divine power. They were the Sand Kings." Zhang Xuanyu took a breath. "So, this little thing also has earth-shattering divine power?" Luo Xiaobai said, "If I'm not wrong, someone in the Su family should have had a spiritual beast like Sand King. Otherwise, there's no reason why Daji could directly awaken as a Sand King." Ku Shui added, "Indeed, it might be due to the attraction of bloodline. In that case, it's very likely that Miss Daji has an unknown bloodline flowing in her body. Han Fei couldn't help but touch his chin. No wonder Su Daiji was more solitary and didn't like to talk much. Could it be because of this bloodline? Su Daiji suddenly grinned and pointed at Sand King. Sand, let's go. Perhaps because Su Daiji's speech wasn't very clear, she seemed to have become a fool after shouting. She slipped into the maze. Su Sanxian and the others were sweating profusely, and their bodies had already spasmed several times. However, they didn't dare to relax because the nine-tailed mantis shrimp was crawling from east to west and from south to north. If they slacked off, they would be chained up. It was really painful. Just as the few of them were clenching their teeth and preparing to endure the pain, they saw Su Daiji running towards them. Beside her, there was also a little scorpion that was running with her in a flurry. From time to time, it would fall to the ground and roll twice due to inertia. The nine-tailed mantis shrimp turned around, and when it saw Sand King, its eyes narrowed. Little Sand King was so frightened that it wanted to crawl underground. No matter what, Sand King was still a noob. Even if it was at the same level as the nine-tailed mantis shrimp, a legend would have to kneel in front of a legend. Without waiting for the Sand King to burrow into the ground, Su Daiji grabbed her tail and lifted her up. Su Daiji looked at the nine-tailed mantis shrimp angrily. Don't scare Sand. The nine-tailed mantis shrimp's eyes were tilted. This little thing can't even compare to one of its claws. I scare it. Do I have to? Gu Chi said in surprise. Daiji, did you awaken your spirit? Smack. Just as Gu Chi finished speaking, a chain whipped down and slapped her to the ground. She hurriedly got up in fright and continued what she had been doing. Ishiyin was curious, but Xingyu didn't think much of it. It was just a scorpion. Su Sanxian frowned as if he had thought of something, but he wasn't sure. He saw Su Daiji spinning the cube as she strolled in front of the four of them. She did it again and again, leaving them speechless. Xingyu couldn't help but say, Daiji, can you stop strolling? You're affecting our cultivation. Smack! Xingyu was slapped to the ground by a chain. Su Daiji was showing off. Seeing that Ishiyin's face was starting to darken, she huffed and puffed as she went to the back mountain. With the appearance of Su Daiji's spiritual beast, the team was finally complete. The positions of the Soul Warriors had been decided. Perhaps this would be another legendary combination in the future. Chapter 10-20. More than 2 months passed in a flash. Han Fei and the others had already reached the peak of the law enforcers after more than a year of training on the Scattered Stars Island. At this moment, he was teaching his students to study some new combat skills. In these short 2 months, Xing Yu and the other 4 had been tortured to the point of hovering between life and death. This included Yi Xian, who was the most talented of them all. She was clamoring for a husband every day, but she ended up getting beaten up every day. And the nine-tailed mantis shrimp had become the exclusive instructor of these troublemakers. In order to please the nine-tailed mantis shrimp, Ishiyin tricked Su Sanxian and the others into catching fish and prawns for the nine-tailed mantis shrimp every day. In the end, it was useless. Because they were too free, almost everyone would bring the 5 junior brothers and sisters over and train them for a while when they were bored. For example, Luo Xiaobai liked to whip people with vines, and Zhang Xuanyu liked to knock people. For example, Luren Kuang liked to stand still and let them attack him. For example, Li Luoluo liked to play tricks on them with bugs. Once, for some reason, Li Luoluo turned into Li Kiki and asked to play with Su Daiji and the others. This scared the hell out of the 5 of them. Until now, they all thought that Li Luoluo was deliberately teasing them that day. On the other hand, Jiuyin Ling had become the favorite teacher of the 5 of them. Because Jiuyin Ling didn't hit them, she gave them pointers seriously every time. Sometimes, when he saw that they were really tired, he would sneakily let them rest. Every time, Han Fei would come and end their beautiful rest time. As a result, Han Fei became the #1 devil in the hearts of the 5 of them. On this day, night fell, and the stars were dim. After the meal, Su Sanxian and the others were sparring and training together. Zhang Xuanyu was the instructor, Lu Renkuang guided from the side, and Li Luoluo watched from the sidelines. Back mountain. Han Fei snuck to the top of the mountain with the cylindrical tubes in his arms. Zhou Ling's attention was on Han Fei all the time, including when she was eating, except when she was paying attention to the students in class. Therefore, she immediately knew that Han Fei had slipped to the back mountain. Thus, he quietly followed them. As for Luo Xiaobai, she just found it strange. She didn't notice Han Fei, but she noticed Zhou Ling. She narrowed her eyes, wondering if Han Fei had fallen in love with Zhou Ling. Thus, he hid in the bushes and followed them. Because the school had always been peaceful, there was no reason for Han Fei to sense his surroundings all the time. Therefore, he did not notice the two of them following him. After a while, Han Fei stood at the top of the mountain. He was smiling as he hugged his can of fireworks. This gift was definitely a pleasant surprise. When Tang Ge got married, everyone was shocked. At this moment, Han Fei was thinking, I have to release my perception. Otherwise, what if this secret was known by others? However, after he released it, he discovered that Zhou Ling was hiding more than 30 kilometers away. When he looked again, he found that Luo Xiaobai's head was sticking out of a tree hole, which almost scared him to death. Except for the two of them, Han Fei didn't feel anything different. It was more than 500 miles from the back of the mountain to the plantation. He couldn't see any further. Fortunately, he didn't notice anyone within this range. In the mountains, he sensed two people. However, when he scanned them with his perception, the two of them slipped away. Han Fei didn't care. They were so far away that they probably couldn't see what he was doing. Han Fei said angrily, "You two, if you want to come, hurry up. Little Nine, you've changed. You're even secretly following people? And Xiaobai, just stick your head out. Are you trying to scare us?" Hearing that Han Fei was talking to them via voice transmission, the two of them sweated. Why did this guy release his perception in his own territory? After a while, the two of them arrived. Zhou Ling blushed, and Luo Xiaobai asked directly, Han Fei, what are you doing sneaking around? Han Fei grinned and said, I didn't want to tell you. Since you've all followed me, I'll show you and let you witness my great invention. Zhou Ling immediately perked up. Great invention? Did Han Fei come up with something shocking? But Luo Xiaobai was different. She knew Han Fei too well. If it was really great, Han Fei would have told him long ago. He wouldn't have hidden it, so she was sure that it couldn't be anything good. Han Fei put the cylinder on the ground. Here, isn't Tang Ge going to get married? I'm preparing a gift for him. I wanted to give him a surprise on the day of his wedding. Since you've all followed me, forget it. I'll show it to you together. Luo Xiaobai wondered, is this a divine weapon? Or is it a very powerful divine weapon? Zhou Ling sniffed. I smell something weird. Han Fei was not curious. Don't panic. Let me try it first. Han Fei pointed at the air, and the fuse of the firework ignited. Buzz, buzz, swish, suddenly, a flame soared into the sky and soared more than 300 meters into the sky. When the firework exploded in the silent night sky, it bloomed with colorful beauty. The magnificence before the destruction made people forget the silence of the night. The petals were like jade, like a beautiful shadow, and Luo Xiaobai and Zhou Ling were stunned. The two of them raised their heads and widened their eyes. What kind of fairy is this? Why is it so beautiful? Clap, clap, in the blooming fireworks, an array suddenly condensed. As soon as the array was unfolded, the words ha 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 appeared in the air. Oh yeah, success. Han Fei raised his fist heavily. His purpose tonight was to see if there was any problem with the array he set up in the fireworks. If it weren't for this, he wouldn't have come to set off the fireworks tonight. Luo Xiaobai said angrily, Han Fei. Luo Xiaobai was furious. You wrote 3 words on such a beautiful scene? Isn't this a bit too much? Ha ha, ha, you ironhead fish. Zhou Ling crossed her arms in front of her chest and murmured after a long time, it's indeed a great invention. It's so beautiful. I want to see more. However, the fireworks in this small cylinder had been set off. Han Fei couldn't help but say, don't worry. I just made one to see its effect. Let's see it on the day of Tang Ge's wedding. It seems to be 3 days later. This morning, someone from the Heavenly Sword sect came to deliver an invitation. Luo Xiaobai came back to herself from the beauty of the fireworks. Shall we all go? Han Fei nodded. All of us. I don't think it's very simple. When old Han said that he was going to propose marriage to Tang Ge, Han Fei had suspected old Han's intentions. Old Han was a scheming person. Why did he adopt Tang Ge? Tang Ge was so talented. Why did he let him grow up? Not only did he let him grow up, but he also engaged Tang Ge the moment they met. And the betrothal gifts were so expensive. It was more like a powerful alliance. If Han Fei didn't know that old Han was scheming, he wouldn't have cared. But Han Fei knew, so he had to wonder if old Han had known that Tang Ge would go to the Heavenly Sword sect. Although, theoretically speaking, this seemed unlikely. However, he had been schemed against. It wasn't that old Han was bad. Maybe everything he did was for the good of him and Tang Ge. However, people would always suspect his real purpose. If old Han really wanted Tang Ge to live a good life for the rest of his life, then there was no scheming at all. If old Han was scheming against him, then Tang Ji's wedding might be related to something else. In any case, he had to go. If he went alone, he would represent old Han. Therefore, it wasn't a problem for him to go. However, the invitation letter said that he hoped that the Thug Academy would go, which was worth mentioning. If the Heavenly Sword sect just wanted to show their relationship with old Han, they wouldn't bring the Thug Academy. Since they had brought it, there might be something else. 3 days later, early in the morning, Han Fei came out with a pile of fancy clothes. Li Luoluo rubbed her eyes and said, Han Fei, what are you doing? Luren Kuang was humming a tune and fried dumplings. Seeing Han Fei holding a pile of clothes, his eyelids twitched. Fei Fei, what are you doing? Su Sanxian and the others also looked at Han Fei. They always felt that senior brother Han Fei was sometimes neurotic and liked to prank people. They didn't know what he was up to. Luo Xiaobai said, I want the aqua blue one. Luo Xiaobai used to like wearing white. But with Jiuyin Ling around, she didn't like to wear white like Jiuyin Ling. In fact, she had to help Xia Xiaochan guard against her. Therefore, she chose a long aqua blue dress. This set also had a waistcoat, which looked quite exquisite. Han Fei handed it over casually and said, Okay, it's still the same style as before. You have good taste. I thought you wanted white. Jiuyin Ling was puzzled. You know how to make clothes? The corners of Han Fei's mouth curled up. Humph, I don't even know how to make clothes. How can I be a refiner? These are all semi-divine clothes. Each person is limited to one set. Ah, there were 2 cries, one from Li Luoluo and the other from Yixian. Li Luoluo asked, What about mine? Han Fei glanced at her. This fancy one is yours. Han Fei pulled out a long dress with at least 7 or 8 colors and watergrass patterns and threw it to Li Luoluo. This was the famous pop style, and it was the only dress that Han Fei felt was suitable for Li Luoluo. Before Li Luoluo could speak, Yixian jumped over. Senior brother, I want mine too. Han Fei casually threw an ordinary JK over and said indifferently, The 5 of you are all mortal level. If you want good clothes, wait until you're stronger. Yixian let out a long sigh and ran to Zhang Xuanyu with the clothes in disappointment. Darling, help me put them on. Pooh, Zhang Xuanyu said. Shut up and call me senior brother. Especially outside, you have to call me senior brother. Chapter 10:21. In the beginning, the Heavenly Sword sect pursued the pinnacle of the Sword Tao. They intended to transform all things into swords and create the great Tao of sword cultivators. Because of this pursuit, the Heavenly Sword sect had always upheld the Sword Tao. But as time passed, the powerhouses of the Heavenly Sword sect discovered that the path of sword cultivation was still too narrow. If you wanted to carry it forward, just cultivating the sword might not be enough. As a result, the Heavenly Sword sect had many more cultivation paths. The Heavenly Halberd technique was one of them, and it was what Tang Ge had learned. Due to the conflict between the Heavenly Halberd and Heavenly Sword, the Heavenly Sword sect's experts felt that all spells were inferior to swords. Hence, they named the Heavenly Halberd art the Battle Halberd art. However, the Heaven Sword sect had another rule. You could cultivate other arts, but sword arts had to be a basic skill. Therefore, apart from the Heavenly Halberd technique, Tang Ge was also good at using swords. However, the Heaven Sword sect also said that in order to enter the Heaven's Sword Great Tao, one had to find their own sword. If he couldn't comprehend the strongest sword that suited him, it would be best if he didn't learn the heavenly sword art. Obviously, Tanga didn't fully comprehend it either, so he couldn't enter the heavenly sword great path. However, no matter whether he could enter the heavenly sword Grand Tao or not, Tang Ji's halberd skills were quite good. With the help of the white dragon feather prawn, there were few in the same realm who could match him. Even those disciples who had comprehended their own path of swordsmanship had little chance of winning against Tang Ji's halberd arts. Would Mu Tianfang not know this? Of course he knew, but Tang Ji's talent was too monstrous, and he had to be taken in as a disciple. One day, when he comprehended his own path of the sword, he would be able to sweep away all the other geniuses and become a true peerless genius. On this day, Tang Ge and Mu Ling were getting married. As the leader of the 7 major sects, the Heavenly Sword sect naturally sent invitations and invited all the dignitaries in the city to attend the ceremony. When they arrived, the Heavenly Sword Mountain, where the Heavenly Sword sect was located, was decorated with lanterns, and fishing boats were flying all over the sky. It wasn't that the place where the Sky Sword sect was located was called the Sky Sword Mountain. Rather, the entire island was called the Sky Sword Mountain. Because the Heavenly Sword sect's foundation was too deep, everyone liked to call them by this name. The Sky Sword sect was located in the middle of a mountain range. All the mountains here belonged to the Heavenly Sword sect. The palaces and sword pavilions were all on it. The location of the wedding was on the martial arts practice grounds not far from the entrance of the Heavenly Sword sect. Because it was a distinguished gathering, not everyone could enter the Sky Sword sect's mountain gate. Only famous figures in the Thousand Star City would have the opportunity to come. Of course, this was only in relative terms. There were more than 1,000 families in the Thousand Star City, including the Su family on the Pure Sun Island. The person who attended was the head of the Su family, Su Yang. Su Yang actually didn't want to come because the Thug Academy had offended too many people. Although the Su family supported the Thug Academy on the surface, that was on Pure Sun Island. Even if others knew about it, they would not go to the Pure Sun Island to find trouble with them. However, things were different here. If someone were to pick a fight, should he stand up for them or not? The reason why Su Yang came was because he knew that Han Fei's ability was not weaker than his. Therefore, in theory, even if something happened, he didn't have to do anything. But if someone wanted the Su family to take a stand, Su Yang shook his head. We've already come this far. We have to go all out. Besides, who would stir up trouble here? After all, this was a joyous occasion for the Heavenly Sword sect. Those aristocratic families wouldn't be so insensible, right? Han Fei and the others were not with Su Yang. As a group of young people of the new era, the members of the Thug Academy who appeared in strange clothes naturally attracted the attention of many people. Although most people didn't know Han Fei and the others, they could guess who they were from their entourage. Those who couldn't guess were drooling when they saw Luo Xiaobai, Jiuyin Ling, and Li Luoluo. In particular, Han Fei's ultra-high level of clothing design attracted the attention of countless women. Someone took the lead and flew over on a fishing boat, directly ignoring Han Fei and the others. Although he was dazzled by Zhang Xuanyu's handsome face, he immediately approached Luo Xiaobai and the others. Miss, I'm a direct descendant of the Qian family on the Gold Money Island. Shall we get to know each other? Get lost. Luo Xiaobai's eyes turned cold, and she drove him away. However, as a descendant of a big family, this kind of situation seemed to happen often. The person didn't care. Since he could come here, he must have some status. Besides, as a man, how could he stoop to the same level as a woman? The person changed the topic. Miss, actually, I'm talking to this girl. The person looked at Jiuyin Ling, thinking they're both beauties. However, Jiuyin Ling clenched her fist. Seal. In the next moment, the young master of the Qian family paused and fell from the sky together with his boat. Zhang Xuanyu looked back and smiled. Domineering. The young master of the Qian family's eyes turned cold. He was actually tricked by these two women. However, thinking that the other party was actually a law enforcer, he couldn't help but touch his nose. It was better not to mess with such a young law enforcer. The young master of the Qin family had just fallen from the sky. He saw another boat flying over. However, this fishing boat was very dazzling, with all kinds of gems piled up on it. Under the sunlight, it was particularly dazzling. A young man in yellow stood on the bow of the fishing boat, and a law enforcer controlled the boat for him. With his hands behind his back, the man came to Han Fei and the others and said leisurely, "Jiuyin Ling, Luo Xiaobai, long time no see." Luo Xiaobai said, "I don't know you." Jiuyin Ling pursed her lips. "Not familiar." The corners of the man's mouth curled up. "Really? The Jiuyin family owes the Zhang family some resources." At this time, Han Fei said again, "The Zhang family? Zhang Wenkuan is from your family?" The young man looked at Han Fei and said with a faint smile, "Yes, you are Han Fei." Han Fei asked, "Who are you?" "Me? Zhang Mingkuan. Zhang Wenzheng is my brother, my biological brother." Han Fei sneered. "What? Do you want revenge? I've already beaten a guy named Mingkuan. I don't mind beating another one." Zhang Mingkuan smiled faintly. "The Zhang family owes you a favor. Why don't you use this favor to help the Juin family pay off their debt? After all, you sent Xiao Xiao back." Han Fei said disdainfully, "How much is your family's debt worth? Is it enough for me to owe you a favor?" Zhang Mingkuan curled his lips. "Almost equivalent to an ultra-quality divine weapon." Han Fei was speechless. How poor was the Jiuyin Ling family? But on the surface, Han Fei said calmly, "It's just an ultra-quality divine weapon. Is it enough for me to owe you a favor?" Zhang Mingkuan smiled and said, "Why don't you give me one?" Han Fei rolled his eyes at him. "This is a favor from a king. How can an ultra-quality divine weapon be enough? At least, you have to give me two." Zhang Mingkuan's eyes lit up. "Okay, then I'll give you one." Han Fei curled his lips. "No, the one the Zhang family owes me, I'll go and get it myself in the future." Zhang Mingkuan smiled slightly. Anytime. In Zhang Mingkuan's opinion, he had plenty of money. He was in the richest family in the Thousand-Star City for nothing, and he couldn't owe Han Fei a favor. Two ultra-quality divine weapons seemed frighteningly extravagant, but that was only in the eyes of outsiders. In Zhang Mingkuan's opinion, how could a venerable not be worth two ultra-quality divine weapons? Jiuyin Ling hurriedly said, "Han Fei, I can do it myself." Jiuyin Ling's voice became softer and softer, and her face was already red. She couldn't afford an ultra-quality divine weapon. Han Fei finally knew how poor the Jiuyin Ling family was. In the past, they couldn't even afford 100,000 caddies of spiritual spring. Who knew that they still owed a debt? Luo Xiaobai said to Ku Shui. Later, inform the Jiuyin family that their debt has been paid off. The Thug Academy has repaid their debt. To Han Fei, saving people was just a matter of convenience, but it was different for other families. Luo Xiaobai deliberately asked Ku Shui to tell the Jiuyin family, but she had other intentions. She specifically said that it was the Thug Academy, not Han Fei. This was to disregard Han Fei's direct relationship. Ku Shui smiled and nodded. "Yes, Mississippi." Jiuyin Ling was pinching her fingers when she heard Zhang Mingkuan say, "Out of kindness, let me remind you that the Thug Academy can't go through the motions this time. If you go back now, it might not be too late." Han Fei sneered. "Don't bother." After Han Fei and the others left, the old man on Zhang Mingkuan's fishing boat said, "Young master, do you really want to use two ultra-quality divine weapons to return Han Fei a favor?" Zhang Mingkuan curled his lips and smiled. "Two ultra-quality divine weapons? I've already repaid the favor." "Huh?" Zhang Mingkuan said indifferently. "What the Jiuyin family owes is resources, not real ultra-quality divine weapons. It seems to be equal, but in fact it's not. This little bit of resources is dispensable to the Zhang family. So what if she returns it? As for Han Fei, do you think he will really go to the Zhang family? Don't forget how he robbed Zhang one in the past. There's a saying that goes, creating something out of nothing, but it doesn't have to be done. Young master is wise." Zhang Mingkuan smiled faintly. Let's go and watch the fun." I didn't lie to them. This is not easy. On the other side, Luo Xiaobai looked at Han Fei. Are you really going to the Zhang family to collect the debt? Han Fei nodded affirmatively. Yes, but not now. Chapter 1022. Obviously, in the Thousand-Star City, Zhang Mingquan was a famous figure. Therefore, when he came into contact with the Thug Academy, many senses swept over him at that time. Humph! Han Fei's perception shook and directly crushed those perceptions. This was the benefit of having strong spiritual power. As his strength grew, his sensitivity to perception became stronger and stronger. After Han Fei shattered those perceptions, someone couldn't help but laugh. Are they from the Thug Academy? Someone laughed. I heard that they don't even have an explorer. Only a few students came to rebuild the academy. Thug Academy, how ambitious are they? Someone shook his head. How can the big families tolerate them? It's amazing. In the crowd, acquaintances appeared. Mo Fian and Yang Diyu were together. Mo Fian asked, "Do you believe Sun Mu was killed by Cao Qiu?" Yang Diyu shook his head. Cao Qiu always says he wants to kill people, but in fact, he has never killed a person. Although the bloodline of the god of war has been awakened and he has changed, I think his nature is hard to change. Most likely, it was Han Fei who killed him. Mo Fian couldn't help saying, "Hey, what's the difference between Cao Qiu's bloodline of the god of war and your will of the god of war?" Yang Diyu's face darkened. Of course there's a difference. That's an authentic bloodline. It's just a secret method. It can't be compared with. Mo Fian sneered. In any case, the Thug Academy is in an awkward situation now. They refuse to cooperate with the sections, and they insist on returning to the Thousand-Star City. How can there be such a good thing in the world? Yang Diyu sneered and suddenly said, "Hey, I heard that some people from the three Holy Lands came back." Mo Fian nodded a little irritably. Forget it. I have to admit that Han Fei and his team are indeed strong. Our family has to call people back from there in case of emergency. At the gate of the Heavenly Sword Sect, Han Fei and the others landed. Here, a crowd gathered. Except for the students of the Heavenly Sword Sect, basically no one below the Hidden Fisher level appeared. They were all hidden fishers, and there were even many law enforcers passing by. Zhang Xuanyu said in surprise, "There are so many strong people in the Thousand-Star City." Luo Xiaobai said, "Of course. After all, the Thousand-Star City is so big. However, more or less, all of them have been to the unknown place." While they were discussing, someone passed by. When he saw Su Daiji and the others following behind them, he could not help but frown and say, "Where did these children come from? Why did you bring these children to such a grand event?" Zhang Xuanyu turned around and said, "Did you eat your yellow croaker? What does it have to do with you?" The man glanced at Zhang Xuanyu and snorted. "You're just a peak-level hidden fisher. You're quite arrogant." Zhang Xuanyu sneered, "As if you're very strong. Go away, don't be a busybody." That person's face turned cold as he thought to himself, "If it were another place, I would have already taught you a lesson." Xing Yu and the others were also very nervous. Gucci followed behind Han Fei. Everyone here was an expert. Any one of them would be able to exterminate them with a single breath. Han Fei didn't care about such a trifle. He had brought Gucci and the rest here to let them see the powerhouses in this world. This gave them a better understanding of the Thug Academy's status in the Thousand-Star City. At the gate of the Heavenly Sword Sect, someone was checking the invitations. Just as Han Fei and the others were about to walk up, they suddenly heard someone wondering, "Is this someone from the Yi family?" Perhaps it was Yi Xian's JK uniform that attracted others' attention. After all, showing her thighs would always attract some attention. Even though Yi Xian was still young, it was undeniable that her looks were very useful. Otherwise, Han Fei wouldn't have been almost seduced by Xia Xiaochan at first sight. Who is it? The Yi family? As soon as that person said this, everyone looked at Yi Xian, and Yi Xian was so scared that she directly grabbed Zhang Xuanyu's hand and said, "Senior brother, you have to protect me." Zhang Xuanyu's face was ugly. So be it. Yi Xian's identity was special, and she couldn't be harassed by outsiders. Ha ha ha. Sure enough, she's from the Yi family. I can smell the special fragrance emanating from her body. Han Fei and the others frowned. Fragrance? Wasn't it normal for girls to have a nice smell on them? Someone exclaimed, "Oh my God, there's a Eve family in the Thousand-Star City." In an instant, a group of people surrounded them from all directions. Luo Xiaobai shouted, "Get out of the way." Someone sneered, "Hey, where did you guys come from? Where does this little girl from the Eve family come from?" Someone blocked the way. "Guys, I'm not hostile. However, our Wong family is talented enough to be Miss Yi's opponent." "Little girl, what do you think?" Zhang Xuanyu shouted, F***CK off. "I don't care which family you are from. You'd better get out of the way." Someone sneered, "Wong Feng, you're just a nobody. Do you think your Wong family can take over the Yi family? Get out of the way." The next moment, Han Fei saw Li Hai, Li Baizhou, and another young man appear. The young man's eyes flickered, glanced at Han Fei and the others, and said to the Li brothers, "Are they for the Thug Academy?" Wow. Around them, some people who didn't know Han Fei and the others all gasped. The Thug Academy? Immediately, most of the crowd dispersed. What joke! They had some family background. However, they had heard about the Thug Academy more than once or twice. Recently, on the Pure Sun Island, the return of the Thug Academy had been known by many people. This academy was famous for its ruthlessness and domineeringness. If you didn't have enough power, don't mess with them. Li Hai said, "Yes." Han Fei, long time no see. Han Fei curled his lips and said, "What? Do you two want to see me?" Li Baizhou grinned and said, "The Thug Academy has always been in the teeth of the storm. Now, you dare to take an Yi family? You're really brave." Han Fei smiled. "Why? Could it be that someone is coming to the Thug Academy to kidnap him?" And the young man in front of the Li brothers snorted. "If this little girl from the Yi family marries into our Li family, the Li family will no longer participate in any affairs of the Thug Academy." Yixian was so nervous that her palms were sweating. She didn't expect that she would be recognized so easily. She had heard of the Li family. However, she didn't want to be robbed. Before Han Fei spoke, Zhang Xuanyu laughed and said, "Do you think you're shameless? Or are you more handsome than me? I'll only tell you once. She is a student of the Thug Academy." The young man's eyes were cold. "Do you really think, with just a few of you, you can support the Thug Academy?" With that said, the young man looked at Han Fei. "Remember, my name is Li Xian. I heard that you are very strong. I really want to experience it." Han Fei said contemptuously, "I'm waiting for a life-and-death battle. If you don't dare to fight, get out of here." Just when Han Fei and the others were confronting Li Xian and the others, someone from the Heavenly Sword sect finally came. It was a disciple who came to check the invitation at the gate of the Heavenly Sword sect. The disciple frowned and said, "Guys, don't make trouble in my Heavenly Sword sect." After that, the disciple looked at Yixian and the others and asked in confusion, "Why did you bring a child here?" Han Fei handed out the invitation casually and said, "The invitation is for everyone from the Thug Academy." The disciple was stunned. "People from the Thug Academy? I heard that Han Fei and Tangu are brothers." The disciple couldn't help but look at Han Fei. "Are you Han Fei?" Han Fei nodded. The disciple looked at the people from the Li family and said, "They are guests of the Heavenly Sword sect." Li Xian snorted softly and turned to leave. At this time, Mo Fian and Yang Diu passed by Han Fei and the others, and Mo Fian said leisurely, "Don't you know how special the Yi family is? This is not a small problem." Han Fei curled his lips. "Next time you make sarcastic remarks, think about yourself first. If it weren't for the protection of the array, you would have been dead now." Mo Fian's face was ugly. She snorted heavily and walked straight to the gate of the Heavenly Sword sect. Li Luo couldn't help but say, "Han Fei, have you offended all the families that you can't afford to offend?" Han Fei smiled. "Are you afraid?" Li Luo curled her lips. "Humph, why should I be afraid?" The disciple of the Heavenly Sword sect said, "Please come in." With that said, he hesitated and said in a low voice, "Guys, you'd better stand in the square formation of the 7 major sections. This time, a lot of people from the big clans have come." Inside the gate of the Heavenly Sword sect, it was a huge sword practice field. It seemed to be to show the style of the Heavenly Sword sect. At this moment, Thousands of flying swords rotated in the air and formed a huge circular sword array. Luo Xiaobai said, "It's the heavenly sword array. It's said that it can unleash a torrent of sword Dao. The hidden Fisher-level heavenly sword array can kill peak-level law enforcers." Lu Renquang said in surprise, "Huh, doesn't that mean that even my ultimate defense technique can't block it?" Han Fei was also surprised. "What about the law enforcer heavenly sword array?" Zhuyin Ling said, "There aren't that many law enforcers." Han Fei heaved a sigh of relief. "You scared me. I knew it. If it's that strong, wouldn't it be able to kill explorers? The Grand Void Academy's Grand Void Sword Array isn't weaker than this." Everyone turned around and saw that Chu Sun from the Imperial College had arrived behind them at some point. Su Sanxian hurriedly took 2 steps back. He could feel the sharp sword intent from his person. Chu Sun looked at Su Sanxian in surprise. "He can actually sense my sword intent? This kid is quite sharp." Chapter 10:23. Han Fei glanced at Chu Sun. "Huh, your strength seems to have grown a lot." The corner of Chu Sun's mouth twitched. He didn't want to talk to Han Fei. In the sea-quelling painting, he was just a nobody. It wasn't easy for him to make some progress, but he was ridiculed. Chu Sun snorted. "Han Fei, I'm here to ask the acting sect leader, is the Thug Academy willing to return?" Before Han Fei spoke, he saw Gong Yuehan also walk over. "Wait a minute before answering. The Thug Academy has been quiet for several months since it came to the Thousand-Star City. But today it may be different." Han Fei narrowed his eyes and said, "Oh, what's the difference?" Han Fei looked at the end of the sword practice field. The 7 major sects all seemed to have strong masters sitting there. The rest of the disciples were all standing in the lower seats. At this moment, the people of the 7 major sects were all looking at him, because next to the 7 seats, there was still an empty seat. Luo Xiaobai said, "Do you want to sit?" Han Fei was silent and stood still. He didn't believe that the Heavenly Sword sect didn't say anything. On the right side, near the front, there were some people he didn't know at all sitting in the seats. However, from those people, Han Fei found Chu Jian, whom he had met once in the Thousand-Star Proving Ground, and Li Xian, whom he had just met. And Mo Fian and the Li brothers had no place to sit. This meant that in the Thousand-Star City, heavenly talents like Mo Fian had fallen from the first echelon of heavenly talents. Or rather, they had never been. However, in remote places, they could only act as a facade for heavenly talents. Han Fei said, "Follow me." Han Fei went all the way to the upper left side, where the masters of the 7 major sects were. At this moment, the scene of thousands of people was slightly quiet, because many people found that the eyes of those big clans and sects were on Han Fei and the others. Han Fei ignored those gazes and went straight to the master of the Heavenly Sword sect. This person was only a peak-level law enforcer, not Mu Tianfeng himself. It made sense to think about it. Why would those big shots sit in this place to welcome guests in person? Before the business started, they probably wouldn't see anyone. Han Fei looked at the Heavenly Sword sect powerhouse and asked, "What do you mean?" The powerhouse from the Heavenly Sword sect heaved a long sigh. "Han Fei, there are 2 possibilities today. If you are alone, you can walk into the inner gate of the Heavenly Sword sect and find Tang Ge. The Heavenly Sword sect is completely open to you, and no one will stop you. But if you represent the Thug Academy, although we have that relationship, we have to treat you in another way." "Oh, I'm all ears," the man said. Returning to the sect system, the 7 great sects will immediately become 8 great sections. Many of the Thug Academy's problems can be solved. Han Fei smiled faintly. "What are the conditions?" The expert from Sea Cloud Tower suddenly said, "The reason why the 7 great sects are able to unite as one is that they share a portion of their resources. This was the tacit understanding of maintaining a united front. The Thug Academy must have left behind a large number of star beads, right? We won't snatch those star beads from you. However, we also have the right to see it." The man from the Grand Void Academy said, "Similarly, the Thug Academy can also see all the star beads of our 7 sections." The man from the Heavenly Sword sect said solemnly, "Han Fei, I know that you should be in charge of the Thousand-Star City now. In fact, this is not a bad thing. The Thug Academy will return, and you will definitely get more than we will." Han Fei narrowed his eyes slightly. "Do you want our star beads so much?" However, this was impossible. Putting everything else aside, Xiao Ci was still in his star bead secret realm. These star beads would never be handed over. Han Fei smiled and said, "Except for relic star beads, yes." The man from the Origin Returning Peak said, "That's impossible. The reason why we agreed to let the Thug Academy return is to see the ruins. Otherwise, there are many ordinary secret realms in our 7 sects, so it's meaningless. Han Fei, the Thug Academy will share the ruins, and so will we. This is the only way to reveal the secrets of the ancient times." Han Fei curled his lips and said with a smile, "I don't think so. Don't the 3 holy lands have secrets? Have you been to the central holy city?" The powerhouse from the Death Door sect said, "If we find the ancient secrets from the 3 holy lands or have been to the central holy city, do we still need the Thug Academy?" Han Fei said, "Do you know how many ruins I have?" The man from the Heavenly Sword sect said, "You may not know. In the universe, once you get a relic star bead, it will shake the universe. The Thug Academy should have 18 ruins." Han Fei narrowed his eyes. Is there such a thing? If he brought Xiaozi back and put her in Forge the Universe, it was not impossible for her to return to the 7 major sections. After all, when Old Bai gave him the star beads, he must have been prepared. However, Han Fei still had a few Law Enforcer secret realms in his hands that couldn't be explored. Han Fei immediately said, "If you want the star beads of the Thug Academy, yes. But you have to wait until we have explored the Law Enforcer level star bead secret realms." Luo Xiaobai glanced at Han Fei, and Han Fei gave her a reassuring look. The powerhouses frowned, and the one from the Origin Returning Peak said, "To be honest, if you want to explore the Law Enforcer level ruins, you have to at least become a senior Law Enforcer. In fact, it's best if you become a peak level Law Enforcer. If you agree now, we, the 7 major sects, can send people to explore with you." The one from the Jade Fairy Palace nodded. "Yes, you should have seen some ruins and know how difficult it is." Han Fei said, "Sorry, this is my bottom line. Or wait until we finish exploring." Ha ha ha. As soon as Han Fei finished speaking, he heard someone from the big families laughing. "Did you see that? The Thug Academy has a guilty conscience. They have secrets in their hands and don't want to hand them over. Ha ha. Han Fei, when will you finish exploring the Law Enforcer level ruins? I think you are buying time for yourself, right?" Han Fei looked over. It was the elder of the Yang Diu family. Only this family's brains were abnormal. Shouting and shouting, rash and impetuous. A woman said sarcastically, "Since the Thug Academy doesn't want to return to the 8 major sects, then the 7 major sects shouldn't get involved in the conflict between us and the Thug Academy, right?" In Han Fei's heart, a voice sounded, "They just want to force the Thug Academy to completely cut ties with the 7 major sections. Now, once you give a positive answer, there will be endless trouble in the future." Han Fei didn't know who sent him a voice transmission. Looking around, Han Fei didn't see many people he knew. Han Fei didn't care. It was impossible for him to hand over the star beads. How could he let others see the ruins that he hadn't even seen? Was this a joke? Who would send someone to go to the Law Enforcer secret realm with him and the others? What if he died in there? Who would take the blame? Which family would old Han take revenge on? Someone threatened. The Luo family and the Join family are clearly going to stand on the Thug Academy side. Han Fei narrowed his eyes and looked at the person who spoke. Which family is he from? Suddenly, Han Fei stopped sending the voice transmission and pointed at the person, cursing, "What's wrong? Your family is very unhappy, isn't it? Do you want to destroy the Thug Academy? Why don't you give it a try?" Suddenly, many people were surprised. Why did Han Fei start cursing? Someone took a breath. Damn, he's pointing at the Sun family and cursing. Who's this guy? Someone laughed. Who? The Thug Academy. The one that was destroyed. Someone shook his head. What a hothead. Why is he cursing the Sun family in front of so many people? Is this guy crazy? The middle-aged man from the Sun family's face turned cold. Han Fei, since the Thug Academy is back, you have to have a legitimate reason. You can have someone to back you up, but what about the Thug Academy? Since you have chosen to start a new school, you can choose to return to the 8 major academies. Or hand over the star beads. Han Fei sneered. What if I don't? The Sun family expert said, it's fine if you don't hand it over. Then don't become a law enforcer as long as you stay in the 1,000-star city. Han Fei laughed. What does it have to do with you whether I become a law enforcer or not? What? Do you think that after I become a law enforcer, your family's descendants will be able to defeat me? Why don't you let your people come out and have a try now? Bam! The man slapped the table. Han Fei, do you think you're the only one in the Thug Academy? Han Fei narrowed his eyes. Are you threatening me? Han Fei's heart did a flip. Do old Bai and old Jiang really have trump cards? The other party threatened him so blatantly. If they really wanted to fight in the future, should he fight or not? He knew that in the eyes of these people, he had already been separated from the Thug Academy. If old Han didn't come out, maybe he would be fine. But what about Zhang Xuanyu and Luren Quang? What about Yi Shiyin and the other 4? Clang, suddenly, a figure fell from the sky, and the big halberd in his hand hit the ground, bursting out the sound of metal. Tengu appeared and glanced at the big families. What? You big clans want to cause trouble on my wedding day? Nonsense, why are you here? The Heavenly Sword Sect expert scolded and then said via voice transmission, this matter is not that simple. They just happen to take advantage of your wedding day. Don't make trouble. Go back. Han Fei frowned. Why are you here? Tengu glanced at Han Fei. How can I not be here? Tengu shouted, Han Fei is my brother. It's fine that he messed up my wedding. But now you want to force my brother? You are too presumptuous. Someone laughed. Huh, Tengu, you were from the Heavenly Sword Sect. Are these people from the Thug Academy all your brothers and sisters? Someone laughed and said, Tengu, you have to be clear about your relationship. Why are you here on this big day? A big family expert was disdainful. What? A junior can represent the Heavenly Sword Sect now? Is there no one else in the Heavenly Sword Sect? Guer, what are you doing? Mu Tianfang appeared, put a hand on Tang Ji's shoulder, and said via voice transmission, there are some problems that you can't solve. Han Fei will be fine. However, the Thug Academy refuses to return, which is the reason why the big families are making trouble. Chapter 10:24. Tango asked, Master, am I just going to watch these people bully Han Fei and the others? Mu Tianfang said leisurely, Bully? What did you see Han Fei being bullied? These people just want to see the trump card of the Thug Academy. If they have a trump card, no one will touch the Thug Academy. If they don't, that will be the problem. This proves that Han Fei and the others are just bluffing in the 1,000-star city. Someone may attack them, but no matter what, Han Fei will be fine. Tengu frowned. But Master, what if, Mu Tianfang said, Guer, only the strong have the right to speak. You're not strong enough. If you want to attack the big families, you have to become strong first. Only with the protection of the Heavenly Sword Sect can you have this opportunity. This is also the reason why your foster father urged you to marry Ling Er. Han Fei took a deep look at Tengu and immediately shouted, Tengu is not a member of the Thug Academy, so he naturally can't get involved. However, do you people really think that the Thug Academy is useless? Can you threaten anyone? Someone stood up and cupped his hands towards Mu Tianfang. Sect Master Mu, it's not that we want to make a scene, but there are some things that should be cleared up. Someone nodded. Yes, the Thug Academy came back so easily. What do they think the 1,000-star city is? Erling of the Yang family said, Han Fei, don't bluff. You have your father's protection. Okay, you could do whatever you want. But the Thug Academy has nothing to do with your father, right? That's right, if you're really bluffing, hand over the Star Pearl ruins as soon as possible. Behind him, a powerhouse from the Sea Cloud Tower said, Han Fei, it's not too late to choose to return to the 8 major sects now. For a moment, Han Fei's head was buzzing. He didn't know whether to return or not, and he couldn't get Tengu involved either. He thought that after he and the others became law enforcers, these people would use normal means to attack the Thug Academy. But he was wrong. These people couldn't wait any longer, which was disgusting. Han Fei was also speechless. Old Bai didn't give him any trump card before he came here. Since he came up, he had indeed been pretending as if his trump card was unfathomable. Those who came to watch the ceremony from the ordinary families all gulped down a mouthful of saliva. The Thug Academy faced such suppression as soon as they arrived. Now that things had come to this, if he did not bring out his true trump card, he was afraid that he would not be able to pass this hurdle. Su Yang's forehead was covered in cold sweat. He was more nervous than Han Fei. Now, the fate of the Su family was linked to the Thug Academy. If the Thug Academy's return was a bluff, the consequences could be imagined. A few peak-level hidden fishers couldn't make any waves. No matter how talented Han Fei was, could he beat an explorer as a peak-level hidden fisher? Everyone else who came to watch the ceremony fell silent. Many people had just learned that Han Fei and the others represented the Thug Academy. At this moment, these people were shocked. The Thug Academy was not afraid of death. Go to the Thousand-Star City? Back then, how did they get exterminated? Could it be that they wanted to repeat the same mistakes? Han Fei narrowed his eyes, and a voice sounded in his heart. This is the best opportunity. Consider it a gift from the Heavenly Sword Sect and your father's alliance. Think about it. Bai Kongyi can't not give you any trump cards. Han Fei couldn't help glancing at Mu Tianfeng. Is Mu Tianfeng reminding me? But why is Mu Tianfeng so sure that this is the best opportunity? Do you think I don't know if you have any trump cards? Since Mu Tianfeng invited the Thug Academy, it was based on the premise that the Thug Academy could hold the fort. But I don't have anything to hold the fort at all. The biggest thing I can do is to be a law enforcer. Anyone with 5 legends can shake a group of law enforcers. However, this is obviously not enough. Since the last time he came out of the underground city, Han Fei knew that there were many explorers in the Thousand-Star City. Even the declining Su family had 2 explorers. It was estimated that once the strong masters of the Thousand-Star City came out, the 10,000 Demon Valley would be crushed to the ground in minutes. As for the Sea Demon Royal City, Han Fei didn't think that the Royal City could have so many explorers and venerables. Of course, this was just Han Fei's imagination. After all, the sea demons had fought with the human race for so long, which meant that they had a strong foundation. At this time, someone came over. Han Fei took a look, and his pupils constricted slightly. Chu Nanfeng. Chu Jian got up and cupped his hands. Uncle. Han Fei frowned. Chu Nanfeng, peak-level explorer. Han Fei was relatively unfamiliar with the Chu sect, but he knew that the Chu sect's rise was started by Xiao Ci. The person who came at this moment was Chu Nanfeng, who was beaten by old Han last time. Is he going to show up in person? Chu Nanfeng smiled and said, Sect Master Mu, the Chu sect has sent a congratulatory gift. I found an ancient sword manual. I hope you will kindly accept it. Mu Tianfeng smiled slightly. Thank you, Mr. Nanfeng. A jade slip flew to Mu Tianfeng, and Chu Nanfeng looked at Han Fei with a smile. If it weren't for your father, you wouldn't have lived until now. Han Fei sneered. If the Chu sect explorers don't come out, I will kill them one by one. Do you believe that I can kill you until your scalp goes numb? Chu Nanfeng smiled and said, Oh, did you say that? Han Fei grinned. Yes, I did. I don't mind your Chu sect sending people to die. I'll leave my words here. Do you accept or not? Chu Nanfeng looked at Mu Tianfeng. Sect Master Mu, if Han Fei represents himself, it would be fine. But as you can see, he is obviously on the side of the Thug Academy. If the Chu sect doesn't accept this challenge, won't it seem that there is no one in the Chu sect? Luo Xiaobai immediately said, Han Fei, be careful. Since this person dares to accept this challenge, don't act rashly. Han Fei really wanted to roll his eyes. I don't want to fight, but the premise is that Old Bai gives me a trump card first. He is about to flip the table to see his cards. How can I not accept it? If I don't accept it, how can I continue? Mu Tianfeng said to Han Fei via voice transmission, Han Fei, don't be impulsive. This time, it was the best opportunity. All the big shots in the Thousand-Star City are here. If they don't show their cards now, it will be difficult to maintain this delicate balance. No matter how strong your father is, he is not a member of the Thug Academy and can't protect so many people. If others die, Will your father really take action? Han Fei gritted his teeth. The point is that I don't have any cards. Han Fei knew that if old Han had been plotting for decades just to make himself stronger, he probably wouldn't take action as long as others didn't involve him. Han Fei couldn't help but smile. Senior Mu, can I borrow the venue of the Heavenly Sword Sect? Wow, the audience was in an uproar. This time it was too big. Han Fei said that if the explorers didn't come, he would kill them one by one. However, would the big families care about their pride? Everyone would only see who would win in the end. Since the Chu sect accepted the challenge, it meant that they had enough confidence to face Han Fei. In the sea-quelling painting, everyone knew the news of the 5 legends. However, those who entered the painting didn't know the strength of the 5 legends. They didn't have a standard for judging. At this moment, the Chu sect came to test the water. Han Fei narrowed his eyes and looked at Chu Nanfo. Do you want to fight? Come on. Today is my brother's wedding day, so there shouldn't be any blood spilled. But cultivators like us don't care about such a trivial matter. Han Fei looked at Tang Ge. Do you mind? Tang Ge frowned and said to him via voice transmission, Han Fei, don't do it. Han Fei smiled and said, they're about to step on my face. If I don't, I won't be able to win. Let's fight. Han Fei's eyes turned cold, and he looked at Chu Nanfo. My father can beat you to a pulp. Wait a minute. One day, I will beat you to a pulp too. Chu Nanfo chuckled. You're good at talking. Since you choose to fight, I will satisfy you. But what do you have to say about winning or losing? Han Fei thought to himself. Here comes the highlight. Han Fei sneered. What do you have to say? Chu Nanfo said. If the Chu sect wins, the star bead of the Thug Academy will belong to the Chu sect. Han Fei asked, what if you lose? Chu Nanfo smiled and said, whatever you want. Han Fei said, if you want all the star beads of the Thug Academy, you have to stop all the big clans here from attacking the Thug Academy for 10 years. You can't even pick a fight with us. Ridiculous. Immediately, someone shouted, what does it have to do with us? Chu Nanfo said, you're too greedy. Han Fei sneered. You sound like you don't have a big appetite. Chu Nanfo asked, then how do you want to fight? Han Fei grinned and said, no problem. If I lose a game, you'll give me a star bead. If I win a game, the Chu sect will not make trouble for me for 10 years. How about that? Chu Nanfo sneered. 3 months. Han Fei said disdainfully, is this all you've got? You're so petty. Do you deserve it? It's you who asked to fight me. Chu Nanfo narrowed his eyes and said, half a year at most. For the first time, Han Fei found that if he didn't want others to make trouble for him, he had to win by fighting. With so many big shots here, the Chu sect wouldn't go back on their word. Except for the Chu sect and the Chao family, the other big clans didn't have the capital to challenge him. Han Fei said, okay, half a year it is. If I fight 20 of you, it will be 10 years. Puff. Someone was speechless. Is he crazy? Fight 20 of them? The other party dared to come up and fight. Did they really think that they would let those weaklings come over? Chu Nanfo smiled contemptuously. If you can win. After that, Chu Nanfo shouted, Quangren, come here. Suddenly, there was a burst of exclamations. Someone said in shock, what? Chu Quangren came out of the God's Memorial Tower? Someone was surprised. This lunatic is here to fight? Someone was shocked. This is too much. Han Fei is only a peak-level hidden fisher. How can Chu Quangren defeat him with 2 slaps? Zhou Yinling's face suddenly changed, and she said via voice transmission, Han Fei, Chu Quangren is a famous lunatic, but he is also a genius. It is said that he has an ancient bloodline. Han Fei said, Han Fei, have seen too many geniuses in my life. There are people who can impress me, but unfortunately, he is not in the Thousand-Star City. Chapter 1025. A pillar of fire fell from the sky, and the scorching sun essence directly burned the entire mountain, turning the vegetation and debris into flying ashes in an instant. Because the scorching sun essence was too domineering, Mu Tianfang immediately shouted, everyone, step back 30 miles. Chu Nanfeng's eyes changed, and he was a little shocked. Is Han Fei crazy? With this kind of terrifying, scorching sun essence, 1 or 2 seconds might be enough. But what about 5 or 10 seconds? What about after 10 seconds? The eyes of all the hidden fishers were so pierced that they burst into tears. Luo Xiaobai directly sealed the eyes of Su Daiji and the others. Boom! In the scorching sun essence, Han Fei was like a man on fire, going crazy. The terrifying power exploded into waves of fire, one wave after another, hitting the sword essence seal. The entire seal was 20 miles in radius and couldn't be seen directly. Boom, boom, boom. Clang, clang, clang. No one knew what Han Fei was thinking at this moment. You say, I don't have energy? Okay, then I'll call some energy down. Let's see who destroys the other first. The roars kept going. With a bang, Chu Kuangren's back hit the sword essence seal, causing the entire seal to shake violently. Boom! Han Fei's figure hit the seal. With a cracking sound, a crack appeared on the sword essence seal. Mu Tianfang's face changed slightly. Not good. Before Mu Tianfang could make a move, a big hand waved in the air, and the sword essence seal returned to normal. Seeing this scene, Mu Tianfang bowed slightly to the big hand. The venerable had taken action. Outside, all the visitors were visibly moved. Su Yang looked at the frantically flashing figures in the scorching sun essence, the terrifying knife marks tearing the void, the figures colliding and the bloody fist marks, and his heart was in his throat. This is crazy. Su Yang was sure that if Han Fei fought him in this state, he would have no chance of winning at all. He would probably be killed in less than 3 seconds. However, the two freaks inside were still fighting. Most of the time, they were fighting hand-to-hand. Because the speed was too fast, there were almost 100 moves in every second, and the roars never stopped. The sound of fists hitting flesh and bones breaking was enough to make everyone's scalp go numb. After only 8 breaths of time, there was a violent gasp in the sword origin formation. A mountain peak collapsed, burying both of them in a pile of rubble. At this moment, the blazing mountain was suddenly extinguished. The remaining energy surged like a tide and drilled into the gravel. The 1,000-meter-tall mountain peak was now only about 600 meters tall. He did not know where Han Fei and Chu Kuangren were. Bang! All of a sudden, rubble flew everywhere. Chu Kuangren was bent over, his whole body covered in scorch marks. His hair was burnt off, and his body was covered in black. Nothing could be seen. A set of battle armor appeared on his body, and a series of crackling sounds could be heard as the charred flesh fell off. Chu Kuangren roared, "Come out!" Xiao! The knife light soared into the sky, and the rocks exploded. Han Fei, wrapped in a green battle suit, flashed out of the pile of rocks. However, everyone could see that one of Han Fei's legs was twisted and his left shoulder drooped unnaturally. Han Fei stabbed the punishing saber into the ground and grabbed his left shoulder with his right hand. Crack, crack! Han Fei bent his right leg again. Crack, crack, crack! With the divine healing technique, the charred flesh on Han Fei's body began to fall apart. Outside the field, there was silence. Because of the supremacy's protection, everyone returned to less than 20 kilometers away. Ishiyin and the others widened their eyes. Is this Senior Brother? Senior Brother is only a peak-level hidden fisher. A mountain was destroyed by the two of them? Gucci gulped. She seemed to have just realized what it meant to join the Thug Academy. Then, she looked at Luo Xiaobai and the others and thought to herself, these senior brothers and senior sisters aren't weak either. Su Daiji was dumbfounded. She was so stunned that she didn't even know how to play the cube. Su Sanqian's heart stirred. Was a powerhouse. This is a powerhouse. A hidden fisher gave off the feeling of a peak-level law enforcer. Luo Xiaobai and the others heaved a sigh of relief. However, their hearts were still in their throats. The two people in the field were definitely not as relaxed as they looked. If the two of them were fine, they would definitely fight immediately instead of standing and resting. Chu Kuangren even allowed Han Fei to set his bones and cast the divine healing technique on him. Chu Kuangren didn't know if he had swallowed something. At this moment, his aura was recovering. He said coldly, "The ancient ferocious beast was born bathed in blood. You've lost this battle." Han Fei's expression was cold, but it was unknown if he had heard the word lost. At this moment, he said, "Bullsh asterisk T." Han Fei took 3 steps forward and stretched out one hand. The punishment saber landed in Han Fei's hand. Han Fei opened his mouth and spoke clearly. "Don't you just want me to become a law enforcer? I'll show you." Because the two were more than 10 kilometers apart, Han Fei walked forward step by step. "You're very good. I thought that the law enforcement war body would be invincible and invincible. Wherever my fists hit, it would be my Tao. However, you dispelled this thought of mine. Do you know that I can master many techniques? I've been having a headache about what to choose. Damn it, what should I choose?" Han Fei spat out a mouthful of blood and continued, "Now I understand. Law enforcers want to strengthen themselves, so they have to be both offensive and defensive. I don't know what techniques there are in this world, then do it according to me. If I say there are techniques in this world, then there are techniques. If I say this is a technique, then it is a technique." Behind Han Fei, a golden giant that no one had seen before suddenly appeared. The giant strode forward and followed Han Fei, glaring at him. But Han Fei chanted, "Reincarnation of Buddha, West Sky Temple of Freedom, Path of Invincibility, Vajra suppresses demons." Clang! Like the ringing of a large bell, thunder rumbled above the sky. Han Fei created a technique that belonged to himself, a technique that only he understood, which seemed to be not tolerated in this world. However, this was not a tribulation. Therefore, no lightning fell. Otherwise, there would have been people who would have interfered. As the golden light on Han Fei's body became brighter and brighter, he had turned into a golden man. Outside, someone exclaimed, "Law enforcer in battle? Isn't he afraid that his law enforcer will be broken?" Someone was shocked. "Crazy, crazy, he's all crazy. What law is he obsessed with? How can he attract such a mighty power?" Mu Tianfang's eyes lit up. "No wonder he is the son of the Venerable. His talent and strength are impressive." Su Yang was excited. He must win. If Han Fei wins, the Su family wins. Chu Nanfeng's face was ugly. Han Fei's strength was beyond his expectations. Although he knew there was something wrong with the punishing saber, no matter what, it belonged to Han Fei. In such a battle, as long as no one interfered, there was no cheating. And Han Fei could fight with Chu Kuangren as a peak-level hidden fisher. If his law enforcer was broken, wouldn't Chu Kuangren lose? Chu Nanfeng said, "Kuangren, what are you waiting for?" Chu Kuangren rushed out wildly, and the big sword flew for dozens of miles before it fell. Han Fei, who was moving forward step by step, waved his saber, and a crack appeared in the void. With a clang, the sword was knocked away. "I didn't want to be a law enforcer here. Man proposes, God disposes. It's been broken. Since I became a law enforcer, who can stop me?" Roar! Chu Kuangren was furious. He didn't expect Han Fei to be so strong. At this moment, a scarlet fist mark broke out, turning the gravel in the way into powder. Han Fei looked indifferent, stopped his feet, and stretched out one hand. As Han Fei stretched out his hand, the golden giant behind him also stretched out his hand. Clang, the sound reverberated. However, Han Fei did not take a step back. He let the fist wind crush the gravel behind him, let the ground sink, and he stood in the void. That terrifying fist mark was taken by him with one hand. Outside, someone was shocked. How is this possible? Even if he is a law enforcer, he can't be so strong, right? But the eyes of a strong cultivator from the mountain sea pavilion widened. No, that's not purely his own strength. He is a law enforcer, and he is using the power of laws to fight against Chu Kuangren. Han Fei grinned. Law enforcer? Sure enough, the law is not the Tao. It's just a wisp of heaven's will. Ha! Qilin demonic fist. Chu Kuangren roared, and a strange creature appeared. The scarlet fist light turned black, and its demonic power was awe-inspiring. Han Fei closed his eyes. When he opened his eyes again, Han Fei's body had already flown 1,000 meters away. He burst out a fist mark that was as bright as the sun. Vajra demon suppression. Moo! A strange sound broke out, and in front of the golden fist mark, the dense demonic chi was crushed along the way. Han Fei's body began to surge. At this moment, The agility of wind had been increased by 5 times. In the face of Han Fei, who had become stronger, Chu Kuangren naturally would not accept defeat. So what if I'm a law enforcer? When have I, Chu Kuangren, ever been afraid of a battle? The two collided in an instant. Suddenly, the battle technique was activated again. At this moment, Han Fei's strength had increased to a higher level. Moreover, with the power of law enforcer, the two of them hammered and shook with the sound of drums. Around the two of them, the gravel was crushed into sand. This was a group of people without any fancy moves. It was a head-numbing hand-to-hand fight. Unfortunately, Chu Kuangren did not come at a good time. He was powerful, really powerful. Han Fei's fusion state was destroyed, and Han Fei was forced to become a law enforcer. So, how could Han Fei let go of this hatred? At this moment, when Chu Kuangren bombarded Han Fei's body, it was as if he had hit a sea-quelling bizarre treasure. When Han Fei bombarded Chu Kuangren's body, blood burst, tendons broke, and bones were broken. Han Fei grinned coldly. Let me tell you a secret. This is called glaring Buddha. Boom! Boom! Chu Nanfeng shouted. You can stop now? All of a sudden, Han Fei erupted all his strength. Stop my ass. Go to hell. Bastard. Chu Nanfeng was about to make a move, but he saw a figure blocking dozens of miles away. Han Fei's punch directly penetrated Chu Kuangren's chest. Han Fei seemed to have grasped something and crushed it. Behind Chu Kuangren, the ground exploded, which was caused by the fist wind. At this moment, Chu Kuangren, one of the legends of the previous generation of the Thousand Star City, died. Chapter 1026. A pillar of fire fell from the sky, and the scorching sun essence directly burned the entire mountain, turning the vegetation and debris into flying ashes in an instant. Because the scorching sun essence was too domineering, Mu Tianfeng immediately shouted, "Everyone, step back 30 miles." Chu Nanfeng's eyes changed, and he was a little shocked. Is Han Fei crazy? With this kind of terrifying scorching sun essence, 1 or 2 seconds might be enough. But what about 5 or 10 seconds? What about after 10 seconds? The eyes of all the hidden fissures were so pierced that they burst into tears. Luo Xiaobai directly sealed the eyes of Su Daiji and the others. Boom! In the scorching sun essence, Han Fei was like a man on fire, going crazy. The terrifying power exploded into waves of fire, one wave after another, hitting the sword essence seal. The entire seal was 20 miles in radius and couldn't be seen directly. Boom, boom, boom. Clang, clang, clang. No one knew what Han Fei was thinking at this moment. You say I don't have energy? Okay, then I'll call some energy down. Let's see who destroys the other first. The roars kept going. With a bang, Chu Kuangren's back hit the sword essence seal, causing the entire seal to shake violently. Boom! Han Fei's figure hit the seal. With a cracking sound, a crack appeared on the sword essence seal. Mu Tianfeng's face changed slightly. Not good. Before Mu Tianfeng could make a move, he saw a big hand waving in the air, and the sword essence seal returned to normal. Seeing this scene, Mu Tianfeng bowed slightly to the big hand. The venerable had taken action. Outside, all the visitors were visibly moved. Su Yang looked at the frantically flashing figures in the scorching sun essence, the terrifying knife marks that tore the void, the figures colliding and the bloody fist marks, and his heart was in his throat. This is crazy. Su Yang was sure that if Han Fei fought him in this state, he would have no chance of winning. He would probably be killed in less than 3 seconds. However, the two freaks inside were still fighting. Most of the time, they were fighting hand-to-hand. Because the speed was too fast, almost every second, there were hundreds of attacks, and the roars never stopped. The sound of fists hitting flesh and bones breaking was enough to make everyone's scalp go numb. After only 8 breaths of time, there was a violent gasp in the sword origin formation. A mountain peak collapsed, burying both of them in a pile of rubble. At this moment, the blazing mountain was suddenly extinguished. The remaining energy surged like a tide and drilled into the gravel. The 1,000-meter-tall mountain peak was now only about 600 meters tall. He did not know where Han Fei and Chu Kuangren were. Bang! All of a sudden, rubble flew everywhere. Chu Kuangren was bent over, his whole body covered in scorch marks. His hair was burnt off, and his body was covered in black. Nothing could be seen. A set of battle armor appeared on his body, and a series of crackling sounds could be heard as the charred flesh fell off. Chu Kuangren roared, "Come out!" "Xiao!" The knife light soared into the sky, and the rocks exploded. Han Fei, wrapped in a green battle suit, flashed out of the pile of rocks. However, everyone could see that one of Han Fei's legs was twisted and his left shoulder drooped unnaturally. Han Fei stabbed the punishing saber into the ground and grabbed his left shoulder with his right hand. Crack, crack! Han Fei bent his right leg again. Crack, crack, crack! With the divine healing technique, the charred flesh on Han Fei's body began to fall apart. Outside the field, there was silence. Because of the supremacy's protection, everyone returned to less than 20 kilometers away. Ishiyin and the others widened their eyes. Is this Senior Brother? Senior Brother is only a peak-level hidden fissure. A mountain was destroyed by the two of them? Gucci gulped. She seemed to have just realized what it meant to join the Thug Academy. Then, she looked at Luo Xiaobai and the others and thought to herself, these senior brothers and senior sisters aren't weak either. Su Daiji was dumbfounded. She was so stunned that she didn't even know how to play the cube. Su Sanqian's heart stirred. Was a powerhouse. This is a powerhouse. A hidden fissure gave off the feeling of a peak-level law enforcer. Luo Xiaobai and the others heaved a sigh of relief. However, their hearts were still in their throats. The two people in the field were definitely not as relaxed as they looked. If the two of them were fine, they would definitely fight immediately instead of standing and resting. Chu Kuangren even allowed Han Fei to set his bones and cast the divine healing technique on him. Chu Kuangren didn't know if he had swallowed something. At this moment, his aura was recovering. He said coldly, "The ancient ferocious beast was born bathed in blood. You've lost this battle." Han Fei's expression was cold, but it was unknown if he had heard the word lost. At this moment, he said, "Bullsh *T." Han Fei took 3 steps forward and stretched out one hand. The punishment saber landed in Han Fei's hand. Han Fei opened his mouth and spoke clearly. "Don't you just want me to become a law enforcer? I'll break it for you." Because the two were more than 10 kilometers apart, Han Fei walked forward step by step. "You're very good. I thought that the law enforcement war body would be invincible and invincible. Wherever my fists hit, it would be my Tao. However, you dispelled this thought of mine. Do you know that I can master many techniques? I've been having a headache about what to choose. Damn it, what should I choose?" Han Fei spat out a mouthful of blood and continued, "Now I understand. Law enforcers want to strengthen themselves, so they have to be both offensive and defensive. I don't know what techniques there are in this world. Then do it according to me. If I say there are techniques in this world, then there are techniques. If I say this is a technique, then it is a technique." Behind Han Fei, a golden giant that no one had seen before suddenly appeared. The giant strode forward and followed Han Fei, glaring at him. But Han Fei chanted, "Reincarnation of Buddha, West Sky Temple of Freedom, Path of Invincibility, Vajra suppresses demons." Clang! Like the ringing of a large bell, thunder rumbled above the sky. Han Fei created a technique that belonged to himself, a technique that only he understood, which seemed to be not tolerated in this world. However, this was not a tribulation. Therefore, no lightning fell. Otherwise, there would have been people who would have interfered. As the golden light on Han Fei's body became brighter and brighter, he had turned into a golden man. Outside, someone exclaimed, "Law enforcer in battle? Isn't he afraid that his law enforcer will be broken?" Someone was shocked. "Crazy, crazy, he's all crazy. What kind of technique is he practicing? How can he attract the mighty power of heaven?" Mu Tianfang's eyes lit up. No wonder he is the son of the Venerable. His talent and strength are impressive. Su Yang was excited. He must win. If Han Fei wins, the Su family wins. Chu Nanfeng's face was ugly. Han Fei's strength was beyond his expectations. Although he knew there was something wrong with the punishing saber, no matter what, it belonged to Han Fei. In such a battle, as long as no one interfered, there was no cheating. And Han Fei could fight with Chu Kuangren as a peak-level hidden fisher. If his law enforcer was broken, wouldn't Chu Kuangren lose? Chu Nanfeng said, "Kuangren, what are you waiting for?" Chu Kuangren rushed out wildly, and the big sword flew for dozens of miles before it fell. Han Fei, who was moving forward step by step, waved his saber, and a crack appeared in the void. With a clang, the sword was knocked away. I didn't want to be a law enforcer here. Man proposes, God disposes. It's been broken. Since I became a law enforcer, who can stop me? Roar. Chu Kuangren was furious. He didn't expect Han Fei to be so strong. At this moment, a scarlet fist mark broke out, turning the gravel in the way into powder. Han Fei looked indifferent, stopped his feet, and stretched out one hand. As Han Fei stretched out his hand, the golden giant behind him also stretched out his hand. Clang, the sound reverberated. However, Han Fei did not take a step back. He let the fist wind crush the gravel behind him, let the ground sink, and he stood in the void. That terrifying fist mark was taken by him with one hand. Outside, someone was shocked. How is this possible? Even if he is a law enforcer, he can't be so strong, right? But the eyes of a strong cultivator from the mountain sea pavilion widened. No, that's not purely his own strength. He is a law enforcer, and he is using the power of laws to fight against Chu Kuangren. Han Fei grinned. Law enforcer? Sure enough, the law is not the Tao. It's just a wisp of heaven's will. Ha! Qilin demonic fist. Chu Kuangren roared, and a strange creature appeared. The scarlet fist light turned black, and its demonic power was awe-inspiring. Han Fei closed his eyes. When he opened his eyes again, Han Fei's body had already flown 1,000 meters away. He burst out a fist mark that was as bright as the sun. Vajra demon suppression. Moo! A strange sound broke out, and in front of the golden fist mark, the dense demonic chi was crushed along the way. Han Fei's body began to surge. At this moment, the agility of wind had been increased by 5 times. In the face of Han Fei, who had become stronger, Chu Kuangren naturally would not accept defeat. So what if I'm a law enforcer? When have I, Chu Kuangren, ever been afraid of battle? The two collided in an instant. Suddenly, the battle technique was activated again. At this moment, Han Fei's strength had increased to a higher level. Moreover, with the power of law enforcer, the two of them hammered and shook with the sound of drums. Around the two of them, the gravel was crushed into sand. This was a group of people without any fancy moves. It was a head-numbing hand-to-hand fight. Unfortunately, Chu Kuangren did not come at a good time. He was powerful, really powerful. Han Fei's fusion state was destroyed, and Han Fei was forced to become a law enforcer. So, how could Han Fei let go of this hatred? At this moment, when Chu Kuangren bombarded Han Fei's body, it was as if he had hit a sea-quelling bizarre treasure. When Han Fei bombarded Chu Kuangren's body, blood burst, tendons broke, and bones were broken. Han Fei grinned coldly. Let me tell you a secret. This is called glaring Buddha. Boom! Boom! Chu Nanfeng shouted, "You can stop now." All of a sudden, Han Fei erupted all his strength. Stop my ass. Go to hell. Bastard. Chu Nanfeng was about to make a move, but he saw a figure blocking dozens of miles away. Han Fei's punch directly penetrated Chu Kuangren's chest. Han Fei seemed to have grabbed something and crushed it. Behind Chu Kuangren, the ground exploded, which was caused by the fist wind. At this moment, one of the legends of the Thousand-Star City, Chu Kuangren, died. Chapter 10:27. In the Boneyard, when Han Fei found the real way to the invincible realm, he actually already knew how to enforce the law. However, at that time, he found that there were too many laws he could enforce. The so-called law enforcement was to master a wisp of the rules between heaven and earth. This rule allowed cultivators to stand out in a certain aspect and achieve the effect of winning by a surprise move. At first, the first thing Han Fei wanted to enforce the law was strength. All cultivation, in the end, could turn into a battle of strength. Secret methods might gradually weaken with the improvement of one's realm and strength. Because the higher one's realm and strength were, the stronger the body's endurance and consumption would increase crazily. The improvement of the power of the secret method would become weaker and weaker. But pure strength wouldn't. This seemed to be a simple law. But when Han Fei came to the Scattered Stars Island to fight 5 people alone, he only found that a strength-type law enforcer was the most difficult to deal with. But at this moment, Han Fei gave up this idea. He could make up for his strength in other aspects. What was his greatest advantage in battle? It was physique. The breakthrough of the 3rd level of the indestructible body gave Han Fei the qualification to fight these law enforcers head-on. Ordinary hidden fissures were nothing to him. The 108 Desolate God body combined the major acupoints, which improved Han Fei's physique to another level and made up for the drawback that Han Fei had meridians. Because Ren Tianfei's meridians were severed and his acupoints were refined. Therefore, the indestructible body was extremely strong. But Han Fei was different. Since he had meridians, the Desolate God body refined the major acupoints all over his body into one, which could be regarded as making up for the gap between his indestructible body and Ren Tianfei's indestructible body. Since his greatest advantage was his physique, Han Fei finally decided to become a law enforcer. He needed to magnify this advantage. However, he didn't know if there was such a law in this world that could strengthen his physique. So, he chose the Buddha golden body that he was most familiar with, which had never appeared in this world, also known as the unbreakable diamond body. As for what he said just now, it was just nonsense to deceive others. But unexpectedly, as soon as he used this method, lightning almost fell. It could be seen that Han Fei seemed to have embarked on a road of invincibility that led to nowhere. Chu Kuangren shouldn't have died, and Han Fei couldn't kill him. But when the law descended and he was about to enforce the law, Han Fei was able to use the power of the law to kill him. Chu Nanfeng was enraged and attacked brazenly. However, to everyone's surprise, a figure with messy hair blocked his way. However, the man chuckled and said, "Is that all the magnanimity of an aristocratic family?" It was supposed to be a life and death match, but after losing the fight, as an explorer, you want to personally deal with a junior? Run. Heavens. Fly. Voila. The aristocratic clans, the 7 great sects, and even the spectators from afar all gathered around. At this moment, their expressions changed dramatically. This lunatic is back? Han Fei turned his head in surprise. He was a little shocked. Ren Tianfei once said that he would meet him in the Thousand-Star City. But today was obviously not a good day to meet. All the big shots in the Thousand-Star City had gathered at the Heavenly Sword sect. "Are you here to deliver food?" Mu Tianfang's expression changed. "Ren Tianfei, how dare you come out?" Someone from the Yang clan flew into the sky with a giant axe in his hand. "Lunatic, run. Now that you've shown yourself, you won't be able to escape even if you have wings." Someone shouted coldly, "Everyone, back to the Heavenly Sword sect." Okay, it turns out that the Thug Academy is in cahoots with Ren Tianfei. No wonder. Luo Xiaobai and the others looked at each other. This was not the first time they had heard of the name Ren Tianfei. When Old Bai talked to them, he once said that 3 people had been to the Immortal Palace. One was the Thug Patriarch, one was Han Guanshu, and the other was Ren Tianfei. And the sea-quelling painting was said to have been stolen from the Immortal Palace by Ren Tianfei. At this moment, Luo Xiaobai and the others couldn't help but wonder if there was any connection between the 3 of them. But no matter how they thought about it, they felt something was wrong. They were people from 3 different eras. Why did they get together? Because of the Immortal Palace. Ha ha ha. Ren Tianfei looked at the sky. "Heavenly Sword, I'm just a clone. Just sit in the Sword Pavilion." When everyone heard that Ren Tianfei only came with a clone, they couldn't believe it. Since this clone could easily take a blow from Chu Nanfeng, how could it be just a clone? Han Fei, on the other hand, was a little surprised. Why did this figure and appearance feel like a corpse? Yes, after checking again and again, Han Fei was sure that this was definitely a corpse. Ren Tianfei refined a puppet clone. Maybe he just gave a little bit of his soul to this puppet. However, if this clone was very precious, how could Ren Tianfei throw it out so casually? Suddenly, a voice came out of Han Fei's heart. "Acting, Han Fei calmly asked. Senior, who are you? Ren Tianfei chuckled. I didn't expect that there would be a junior in the Thug Academy who has reached such a high level in body refining. Boy, what kind of body refining technique are you practicing? Han Fei thought to himself, Ren Tianfei probably wants to distance himself from me. So he said bluntly, 108 desolate god body. Everyone present frowned slightly. Before, some people guessed that Han Fei had inherited Ren Tianfei's body refining technique. But now it seemed to be wrong. However, 108 desolate god body? They had never heard of it before. Ren Tianfei said leisurely, not good enough. Boy, are you interested in being my disciple? I'll teach you the indestructible body, a unique body refining technique. How about it? Immediately, someone's face changed and he shouted, Lunatic run, that's evil. Ren Tianfei laughed and ignored that person, but glanced at Han Fei and said, you just need to destroy all the meridians in your body. You won't die. The corner of Han Fei's mouth twitched. Then, forget it. Ren Tianfei despised him. Humph, you're so mean. There can be no construction without destruction. Kid, you still haven't comprehended it. Chu Nanfeng said coldly, Ren Tianfei, you're just a stray dog. How dare you clamor here? Even if your real body is here, you can't be so arrogant in the 1,000-star city. Bah, no one in the Chu sect is qualified to talk to me. Who do you think you are? You're just a peak-level explorer. When you become a venerable, you can talk nonsense again. Chu Nanfeng sneered. Do you think you can get away? Ren Tianfei laughed. When did I say I was going to leave? Ren Tianfei glanced around at the crowd. Don't you want to see the trump card of the Thug Academy? I'm their trump card. I made a deal with the Thug Academy. As long as the people of the Thug Academy are in the 1,000-star city, no matter who treats them unfairly. Humph, wait for my revenge. Han Fei was speechless. This trick again? Old Han stood behind him and threatened the big families in the 1,000-star city. Now, Ren Tianfei was going to stand behind the Thug Academy and threaten the big families. However, Han Fei immediately found that this trick worked every time. Judging from the current situation, Ren Tianfei, this old B***starred, couldn't be weak. It was very likely that he was also a venerable. However, if a venerable went crazy, which family wouldn't be shocked? Which family would dare to attack the Thug Academy and scrupulously? Even a big family like the Chu sect dared to ignore Ren Tianfei's words, not to mention those who didn't have a venerable in their family. Attack the Thug Academy? At this moment, Luo Xiaobai and the others were stunned. Another venerable was standing behind the Thug Academy. Suddenly, Han Fei smiled and said, Thank you very much, Senior. Then, Han Fei walked out of the Sword Origin Seal, looked at Chu Nanfeng, and said leisurely, Well, don't you want to see the trump card of the Thug Academy? Isn't the Chu sect arrogant? If you have the ability, continue to be arrogant. Chu Nanfeng's face was dark. He found that Ren Tianfei didn't have the aura of a living person. Immediately, he confirmed that this was indeed a clone. If Ren Tianfei didn't come in person, what was the point of leaving a clone? At the same time, his heart sank. Has one of Ren Tianfei's clones reached the level of an advanced explorer? Then, has his main body recovered to the Exalt realm? This matter needs to be considered carefully. Han Fei glanced around. Now, I, Han Fei, have become a law enforcer. If the big families want to send people to make trouble, I'll welcome them at any time. I'll still say the same thing. If one comes, I'll kill one. If two come, I'll kill a pair. In addition, the Chu sect had better keep their promise. Within half a year, get out of the sight of the Thug Academy. If the Chu sect is shameless, we can cancel the previous bet. Gulp. Many people from the ordinary family swallowed. How could they find fault with him? If Ren Tianfei doesn't show up in person, who would dare to touch the Thug Academy? Someone said to each other via voice transmission, This is not good. If the Thug Academy really joins hands with Ren Tianfei, those lunatics will definitely do anything. Someone frowned. The key is Han Fei. What is he doing? Did he kill Chu Kuangren with the power of the laws just now? Or is he really so strong after becoming a law enforcer? Someone said decisively, It must be the power of the laws. A hidden fisher breaking through to become a law enforcer seems to be a big gap, but he couldn't kill Chu Kuangren before. He must have used the power of the laws to win. In the distance, many hidden fishers sighed. I still can't believe it. Did lunatic Chu really die like this? Someone smiled bitterly. He's already dead. His internal organs are all broken and turned into meat paste. How can he still be alive? At this time, Ren Tianfei said, "Does anyone want to stop me today? If not, I'm leaving. Do what you should do. Remember, I dared to break into the Thousand-Star City twice, and I don't mind doing it a third time. Anyone who wants to fight me, think about your family's strength first." Chapter 10:28. Now that they knew that Ren Tianfen was just a clone, no one wanted to fight this guy. Obviously, everyone knew that it was meaningless to fight a clone. Besides, this was an explorer clone. Did they really think they could fight him? If the Venerable of the Heavenly Sword Sect didn't take action, even Chu Nanfeng and Mu Tianfeng would be injured. Besides, this was the territory of the Heavenly Sword Sect. If Ren Tianfen chose to fight in crowded places, the Heavenly Sword Sect didn't want to see that. Ren Tianfen didn't say much to Han Fei, but when he left, a voice sounded in Han Fei's heart. First the Sky Meditation Garden, then the Ideal Palace, and finally the God's Memorial Tower. Han Fei's expression remained unchanged. Olbi * Stardren put the God's Memorial Tower last. Obviously, this God's Memorial Tower was the way to the Central Temple. As for the Sky Meditation Garden and the Ideal Palace, what were they exactly? Well, Han Fei planned to go directly to Tang Ji's wedding. He would just leave Jiuyin Ling and Li Luo in the Thug Academy. Seeing that the battle had been settled and the crisis of the Thug Academy had been resolved, Mu Tianfeng's wedding should continue. Mu Tianfeng said, "Everyone, please return to the sword exhibition field and let the ceremony continue." Mu Tianfeng took a deep look at Han Fei. He knew that the Thug Academy wouldn't be so reckless as to send Han Fei and the others here. However, he never expected that the Thug Academy would cooperate with Ren Tianfen. This was out of everyone's expectations. Ren Tianfei was an out-and-out lunatic. No one knew where he came from, and no one knew why he rose. No one noticed where this guy passed the heavenly tribulation. Anyway, the first time Ren Tianfen appeared, he directly fought his way into the Thousand-Star City. For no reason, he directly attacked the big families. Back then, Ren Tianfen was so angry that he slaughtered more than 30 explorers with his hands. One of the Venerables was directly crushed by him. The second time, Ren Tianfen broke into the Divine Palace and stole the sea-quelling painting. It was also at that time that the Venerables of the Thousand-Star City came together and beat him up. At that time, a Venerable was crushed by Ren Tianfen. They thought that even if Ren Tianfen didn't die that time, he wouldn't be able to rise again. But who knew? This time, Ren Tianfei appeared again, which made everyone's attention rise to the occasion. This guy seemed to only target the aristocratic families. How could the great clans not be afraid of them? They didn't ask for the reason and just attacked right away. As expected, although there were still many people who stayed to watch the ceremony, some hidden fishers left first. They must have gone back to report the news. Originally, when the guests arrived, it should have been afternoon. After the incident with the Thug Academy, the Heavenly Sword Sect set up a special place for the Thug Academy. However, Han Fei was not one of them. After saying a few words to Luo Xiaobai, he ran to Tanggu and entered the inner gate of the Heavenly Sword Sect with Tanggu. On the way, all the disciples of the Heavenly Sword Sect looked weird when they saw Han Fei. Behind him was the girl who had been robbed by Han Fei. At this moment, she stole a few glances at Han Fei and thought to herself, how did this guy grow so fast? From the level 3 fishery to the present, in just a few years, he had grown to the point where he could kill peak-level law enforcers. After a while, Han Fei came to Tang Ji's residence. At this moment, a group of Tang Ji's senior and junior brothers were gathered here. However, the Heavenly Sword Sect, a group of guys who used swords, were usually old-fashioned and calm. For example, John Doe. At this moment, they saw Tanggu enter the door. Someone said, "Tanggu, I think you can put away your halberd. Why don't you use a sword? Someone analyzed. Remember, when you go out at night, you must be handsome and followed by thousands of swords. Only in this way will you look imposing. Someone agreed. The clothes on your body should be white. White looks good. Someone shook his head. White is not appropriate. It should be black. It looks imposing. Puff. The group of people all talked at once. Suddenly, they heard laughter at the door and turned around, only to see Han Fei laughing. Tang was like a piece of wood at this moment. A group of senior and junior brothers were there, some carrying swords, some carrying clothes, some black, some white, and some even carrying green clothes. Looking at Han Fei, Tang was embarrassed. Well, this is quite troublesome. The group of senior and junior brothers looked at Han Fei strangely. Did Han Fei enter the inner gate? Han Fei said leisurely, "Wedding. It's a big wedding, brothers. Why are they all black, white, yellow, and green? Of course they are red." Huh? Immediately, the group of senior and junior brothers were surprised and stunned, thinking, "We sword cultivators are very handsome, but we all wear white and black clothes. Who wears red?" Immediately, someone disagreed. "No, why do men wear red?" Yes, that's what women wear." Han Fei was speechless. "Get out of the way, get out of the way. It's already a wedding, but you haven't even prepared clothes? I'm really worried about you." Someone was speechless. Anyway, red definitely doesn't look good. Tengu also frowned. "Red, indeed, is not very good?" Han Fei sneered. "Then you haven't felt the charm of red. Come on, let me, the #1 refiner of the Scattered Stars Island, make a set for you. Then you'll understand." Someone was surprised. "Are you going to make it now?" The corners of Han Fei's mouth curled up. With a clatter, a pile of messy cloth appeared. Flames of spiritual energy burst out, and in the crimson light, golden threads spread and wandered on the red robe, and the prototype of a long robe appeared. To the group of people's astonishment, the golden threads turned into dragons, gold and red intertwined, and a red robe with coiling dragons appeared. And Han Fei made a set of it. In addition to the dragon robe, there was also a phoenix robe with dancing phoenixes and golden sleeves. The girl following Han Fei said in shock, "Wow, this is even better than the clothes of the Linglong Tower." Han Fei curled his lips and said, "Clothes are all about creativity. This robe symbolizes the flying dragons and dancing phoenixes, the auspiciousness of dragons and phoenixes." The girl was shocked. "Why are they all made of ordinary gold? Except for the red silk, these clothes are only low-quality spiritual weapons, right?" Han Fei chuckled. "Girl, this is a wedding. It's not a fight. Why do you need such high-quality clothes? You can only wear these clothes once." Then Han Fei casually refined a pile of jewelry and handed them to the girl. Take them. Try them with Mu Ling and put them on. They will definitely look brilliant." Then Han Fei said, "Everyone, I'll have a private chat with Tengu for a while." Everyone was still shocked by the style of this dragon and phoenix robe. How could clothes be made like this? But then they realized that Han Fei and Tengu were brothers, so they left one after another. The guy who said that red didn't look good had already thrown away the clothes in his hands. After a moment, inside the soundproof array, Han Fei said, "Although I know that Venerable should be able to hear us, I don't think they will eavesdrop, will they?" Tengu chuckled. "Of course not." Tengu hurriedly said, "Are you okay just now? Don't be reckless in the future. The scorching sun essence can't be underestimated. This time, you're the law enforcer, but there is one thing you have to remember. Chu Kuangren is not the strongest in this generation. In addition to Chu Kuangren, there is another person in the Chu sect who ranks 3rd on the heavenly talents list of their generation. He is very strong." Han Fei nodded. "Who is it?" Tengu said solemnly. "Chu Qingyan, the proud daughter of the Chu family. It is said that she is more talented than Chu Kuangren." Han Fei asked in surprise, "A woman?" Tengu nodded. "Don't underestimate her. In every generation, there will always be some extremely outstanding people. None of the top 3 in Chu Kuangren's generation is simple." Han Fei nodded. "Got it. I'll be careful. Don't worry about this. What I want to tell you is that after your wedding, No matter what happens in the Thug Academy, don't get involved. Don't get involved. Tang Ji's face suddenly changed. No, although the Thug Academy is temporarily safe because of the checks and balances. But once this balance is broken one day, Han Fei said, when the balance is broken, what can you do to help? Old Han asked you to marry Mu Ling because he wants you to cultivate and grow in an absolutely safe environment. Even if you want to help, you should at least have the strength to explore, right? You should pass the explorer's heavenly tribulation first, and then we can talk about other things. Tang Ge frowned. What about you? In the Thousand-Star City, if you want to improve your strength, you can only take the path of the Thousand-Star Proving Ground and the Three Holy Lands. The Three Holy Lands are mysterious and mainly a place to temper the soul. The Thousand-Star Proving Ground is very difficult. Many of the secret realms in the galaxy have been mined, and the rest are not easy to mine. I'm afraid the star beads of the Thug Academy are not enough for you to cultivate for a long time, right? Han Fei patted Tang Ge on the shoulder and said, don't worry. When I reach the peak of Law Enforcer, I will leave the Thousand-Star City. Tang Ji's expression changed. Did foster father find a place for you to break through? Han Fei thought for a while and nodded slightly. Sort of. So, I may not stay in the Thousand-Star City for a long time. There are not many law enforcers who can threaten me. As long as nothing happens to the Thug Academy during this period, there will be a way out. Han Fei and Tang Ge were talking. And 100 kilometers away, deep underground, an old man narrowed his eyes slightly and murmured, Did I miscalculate? Was it Han Fei who caused the sky to change? It seems that Han Guanshu paved a way for his son. It's really a good plan. Chapter 1029. At night, in the sky above the Heavenly Sword Sect, rays of light burst out, sword shadows flickered, and silver light shone. Lanterns and banners were hung everywhere, and the sword practice field was full of chatter. Mu Tianfang appeared in person, standing in midair, wearing a green robe and with a smile on his face. Everyone, today is a joyous day for the Heavenly Sword Sect. Thank you for coming. The Heavenly Sword Sect has a heritage of 10,000 years and upholds the Sword Tao. Today, my beloved disciple and my beloved daughter are cultivating together. The future is long. I hope the two of you can support each other and explore the Tao together. Clap, clap, clap. Congratulations, Sect Master Mu. Sect Master Mu, your beloved disciple and daughter are cultivating together. Everyone is envious. Sect Master Mu is so lucky. On the Thug Academy side, Yixian sat next to Zhang Xuanyu. Darling, it's so romantic. Zhang Xuanyu's face suddenly changed. Have you forgotten what you should call me? Yixian stuck out her tongue. Senior brother. Zhang Xuanyu said, Why hasn't Han Fei come out yet? Why is he joining in the fun? Lu Rinquang was eating sea spirit melon seeds and said, They're brothers. God knows what he's doing. Luo Xiaobai and Zhou Ling looked at each other and then said, According to Han Fei's personality, he must be doing something. Zhou Ling pursed her lips and waited curiously. She didn't know Tang Ge, but she was quite curious about this wedding scene. Of course, she also wanted to see the fireworks Han Fei made. If only Han Fei could show them to her often. Clang, clang, clang. The bell rang 3 times in a row, and the world shook. Swish, 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 swish. Thousands of swords floated in the air and turned into a tide of swords, bursting out in the sky. There was a leisurely melody, slowly rising, ethereal like the sounds of nature. Hoop! A white dragon phantom appeared in the distant sky. Han Fei stood proudly on the phantom, wearing a golden-laid red robe, and the golden dragon on the robe was dazzling. At the moment Tang Ge came out, Han Fei appeared in the Thug Academy camp with a swish. Zhang Xuanyu rolled his eyes. If you didn't come back, I would have thought you were going to be the groom. Luo Xiaobai glanced at Han Fei. You become a law enforcer. When will you go to the 3 sacred lands? Han Fei said, Tomorrow, man proposes, God disposes. Since we've broken through to the law enforcer realm in advance, we'll go to the 3 holy lands tomorrow. Luo Xiaobai nodded. Okay. Li Luo nodded. Okay. Han Fei asked in surprise. You're not staying in the Thug Academy? Li Luo widened her eyes and said, Of course not. If you guys go, I'll definitely go too. I also want to experience what the 3 holy lands are like. Han Fei looked at Jiuyin Ling, who blinked and pursed her lips. Then should I stay and teach them? Ishiyin jumped with joy. All right, Han Fei said angrily. What's so good about you? The 9-tailed mantis shrimp is also staying in the Thug Academy. Gu Qi, Xing Yu, and the others looked at Ishiyin, wishing they could throw her out. Who asked you to speak out of turn? As long as the 9-tailed mantis shrimp is here, can we live a good life? At this moment, Jiuyin Ling's eyes flashed as she looked into the distance. Everyone hurriedly looked over and found that Mu Ling had come with Tang Ge. Mu Ling was an array master. At this moment, she was wearing a phoenix robe and stepping in the air, arrays condensed one after another. Beside Mu Ling, there were 3 female disciples of the Heavenly Sword sect, all manipulators. At this moment, in midair, flowers bloomed and surrounded Mu Ling. And in the sky, there were pink petals falling, making Mu Ling look like a fairy walking out of a sea of flowers. Mu Tianfang couldn't help but nod. Not bad, but I wonder who made this dress? It's quite nice. Tang Ge and the others all looked at Han Fei. This dress is so unique. It must have been made by Han Fei. Jiuyin Ling subconsciously folded her fists on her chest. It's so beautiful. Ishiyin even chattered. Darling, I want it too. I want it too. Senior brother Han Fei, I want this dress too. Zhang Xuanyu said angrily. Shut up. You're only 12 years old. Ishiyin snorted. So what if I'm 12 years old? I'm already an adult at 12 years old. Zhang Xuanyu directly covered Ishiyin's mouth. What are you shouting for? Watch the ceremony. At this moment, Tang Ge and Mu Ling, one riding a dragon on a sword, the other accompanied by thousands of flowers, attracted the eyes of many people present. When the 2 landed, they looked at each other. Tang Ge was a little shy, and Mu Ling was smiling. Both of them had their eyes on each other. Cough, cough. Mu Tianfang coughed slightly, and Tang Ge immediately reacted and bowed. Tang Ge pays respect to Master. Han Fei said via voice transmission. Master, call me Father. Tang Ge blushed and was a little embarrassed. Tang Ge greets. Father, okay. Mu Ling smiled slightly. Ling greets Father. Mu Tianfang laughed and said, Good, good, good. Tang Ge, Dao integration double cultivation is a major event in life. Don't let me down. Tang Ge said seriously. Yes, in this life, I will treat Ling well and never abandon her. Mu Ling's eyes were full of tears. She was so happy. Han Fei looked at the stage, which was bustling and lively. Mu Tianfang gave gifts. Tang Ge and Mu Ling toasted each other, and the 2 of them held hands and bowed to everyone. In this hustle and bustle, Han Fei couldn't help but think, this is Tang Ji's road, and my road is still very long. Go to the Waterwood Heaven, become a law enforcer, fight the sea demons, take charge of the Divine Palace, and the distant boundless sea, the mermaids, and rebuild the heavenly desolate city. For a moment, Han Fei sighed. The road is long, and I will continue to explore. Jiuyin Ling silently looked at Han Fei, only to see that Han Fei was in a daze. Is he thinking about that woman? Zhang Xuanyu kept pouring wine into his mouth with a smile. Interesting. This Dao integration double cultivation doesn't look bad. Ishiyin giggled and peeked at Zhang Xuanyu from time to time, thinking the man Dad and Mom found for me is not bad. He's really good looking. As for Luo Xiaobai, she still looked indifferent, as if she had never thought about Dao integration double cultivation. Lu Renquang was stuffing himself with wine. In fact, the etiquette here was only slightly different. According to Han Fei, it was actually a bit simple. He just wanted to announce that they had Dao integration double cultivation, and then there was only a lot of blessings. Of course, he also wanted to protect Tang Ge. In the future, when Tang Ge becomes a law enforcer and knows that he is the son-in-law of the Heavenly Sword sect, who would dare to stop him? Han Fei was speechless. Why do these people give gifts in advance? Now there are no gifts to give. Han Fei jumped out with a swoosh and said, I, Han Fei, have specially given you a huge gift to celebrate Tanggu and Mu Ling's Dao integration double cultivation. In the seat of honor, Mu Tianfang was chatting with people. Tanggu and Mu Ling were surrounded by a group of senior and junior brothers. Han Fei suddenly jumped out, and everyone was stunned. Is this the gift-giving session? It doesn't seem to be, right? Besides, Han Fei said that he would give a huge gift. What kind of gift could be called a huge gift? Even Mu Tianfang couldn't help but be taken aback. It seems that this gift is very precious. After what happened in the afternoon, although Han Fei was a heavenly talent, he was actually not well received in the Thug Academy. Therefore, although some people were curious about Han Fei's so-called huge gift, not so many people were willing to pay attention to him. Tanggu pulled Mu Ling out of the crowd. Han Fei, that's enough. My foster father has already given me and Ling quelling bizarre treasures. Han Fei said with a smile, my gift is unique in the world. A girl sneered. Who else could it be but Mo Fian? She said in disbelief. Unique? Do you think you're bragging? I'd like to see what kind of huge gift it is. Can it be called unique in the world? Yang Diu muttered. The wine glass in my hand is also the only one in the world. Hey, what gift? Look at it. Han Fei turned his head, only to see a young man holding a fruit in his hand with a cynical look on his face. Swish! 1,314 cylinders fell on the martial arts practice field, one every few meters, covering a distance of thousands of meters. Immediately, someone sneered. What is this? It's not even a spiritual weapon. Huh, Han Fei, this is the gift for your brother's wedding? Someone was speechless. What the hell is this? You might as well grab some stones and put them on it. Someone wondered, is he setting up an array? It doesn't look like an array. Mu Ling looked at Tanggu in confusion. Your brother is going to do something again? 1,314 cylinders. That's a good idea. Tanggu was also quite curious. What was Han Fei doing? However, Luo Xiaobai and Zhuing Ling gasped at the same time. How many cylinders did Han Fei make at once? More than 1,000? Han Fei grinned. Look carefully. This is the only time you'll see this thing in your life. Everyone, rub your eyes and open them wide to see clearly. With that, Han Fei stepped on the ground, and those flame flowers were ignited by the spiritual energy flames one after another, like rows of ignited sparks, making a sizzling sound. The group of people was still puzzled. What was this? Zhang Xuanyu wondered, what is this? Even we haven't seen it before. While stuffing dried fish into his mouth, Luren Kuang said, I haven't seen it before, but I'll see it soon. Li Luo asked curiously, what is he doing this time? Hearing Han Fei's words, Xingyu and the others were staring at the burning fuse, their eyes wide open. Swish, 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 just when everyone was staring at the fuse, in an instant, rows of flames rushed into the sky. Anything, once there was a large number of them, looked spectacular. Unfortunately, this was the Heavenly Sword sect, where thousands of swords hung in the sky. Therefore, this scene didn't bring a sense of shock to the people. Li Xian couldn't help chuckling. That's it. However, as soon as he said that, there was a crackling sound in the sky. Everyone watched as each streak of fire exploded in the sky, exploding into hundreds and thousands of colorful light spots. And that was just the appearance of a fireball exploding. At this moment, there were thousands of them, continuously spraying flames. For a time, the entire sky above the Heavenly Sword sect seemed to be in a galaxy, shining with colorful stars. Wow! Finally, someone couldn't help but cry out. For a moment, Mo Fian, Li Xian, and the others felt as if they had swallowed a fly. In terms of congratulations alone, it seemed that this method was indeed quite shocking. Countless women raised their heads and marveled, as if they were fantasizing about something. Li Luo was shocked. Oh my God, is there such a wonderful thing in the Thug Academy? Why didn't I know? Mo Fian, who had just mocked Han Fei, widened her eyes at this moment. How could there be such a beautiful thing in this world? Mu Ling couldn't help but open her mouth. So beautiful. Tengu scratched his head with one hand and giggled. Ha ha ha. Ishian shouted, "Look, there are words. There are words." Everyone quickly blinked their eyes, only to see that after some fireworks bloomed, they directly turned into words. It read, "Husband and wife for a day, marriage for 100 lifetimes. 100 years of cultivation cross the boat together. 1,000 years of cultivation sleep together. Wish, Tengu, Muling grow old together. Till the end of time, the seas run dry and the rocks decay." The third chapter, asking for votes. The wonderful plot doesn't last that long. It was mainly prepared for Tang Ge's temporary retirement. The other was to intensify the conflict between the Thug Academy and the big clans. End of this chapter. Chapter 1030. Thug Academy. Last night, after attending Han Fei's wedding, Han Fei knew that he needed to draw a line with Tengu for the time being. Before leaving, Han Fei directly sent a voice transmission to Mu Tianfeng, expressing his intention. Mu Tianfeng also knew the pros and cons. Han Fei's identity was very special. After obtaining the sea-quelling painting, he had a chance to become a king. However, it was exactly because Han Fei obtained the sea-quelling painting and was a member of the Thug Academy that he was destined to be at the center of the storm. Did they really think that the aristocratic families would just let it go? If the first plan didn't work, there would naturally be a second plan. Since he couldn't deal with them blatantly, there were naturally other reasonable ways to deal with them. For example, Han Fei had become a law enforcer. Even Mu Tianfeng himself didn't expect that Han Fei would choose this time. At this moment, in the mountain behind the academy, Luo Xiaobai frowned and said, "You didn't have to kill Chu Kuangren yesterday. The timing to become a law enforcer is not right." Han Fei nodded. "I see. However, I have to use a powerful method to kill him and intimidate those aristocratic families. Now that Chu Kuangren was dead, these people would not immediately send someone else to cause trouble for him. After all, they don't know how strong I am. You exposed a lot of things yesterday. If I'm not mistaken, right now, all the major families are searching for information about your desolate god body and yin-yang divine eyes." Han Fei nodded. "So, we have to hurry up and consolidate our strength in the 3 Holy Lands. Now that I've become a law enforcer, there will be more trouble in the future. In the 3 Holy Lands, you have to become law enforcers too." Luo Xiaobai nodded. "Are you really going to leave it to Jiuyin Ling? Give it to her. Now, anything in the world could be a way for Jiuyin Ling to grow. Going to the 3 Holy Lands should not be the path she wants to take." Luo Xiaobai said lightly, "The Sky Meditation Garden is fine, but I'm afraid it will be troublesome to enter the Ideal Palace. There are crooks and honest folk mixed in there, and there are all kinds of people. The aristocratic families will most likely make a move in the Ideal Palace." Han Fei grinned and said, "Then you can become a law enforcer in the Sky Meditation Garden. When the time comes, I will go to the Ideal Palace first." Since Han Fei embarked on the invincible realm, he no longer hesitated. The road was here. He just had to walk over it. This was the confidence that his strength gave him. Han Fei said, "Go inform Zhang Xuanyu and the others first. Wait for me for a moment." "All right." After Luo Xiaobai left, Han Fei checked his information data. He was planning how to go from a beginner law enforcer to the peak. A message appeared in his mind. Owner Han Fei level 60, beginner enforcer, spiritual energy, 432-5681, 44852, spiritual power, 9999/9999 range, 500 miles law enforcement, invincible Vajra strength, 3 waves, first spiritual vein, LV7, lower grade, second spiritual pulse, unawakened, first spiritual beast, twin yin-yang spirit swallowing fish, level 52, second spiritual beast, unawakened main art, divine manipulation technique, level 5 of void fishing, heaven level, divine quality, due to the bad timing of the breakthrough. Yesterday, in the intense battle, Han Fei was stuck at level 60. However, he had a feeling that he could advance at any time. As expected, there was no change in his spiritual power. It was because after swallowing the source water, it had increased too much and it would take some time to digest it. The indestructible body of a law enforcer didn't mean that it was really indestructible. There were many law enforcers who had their techniques broken. In this world, there was no absolute indestructible body. However, for a law enforcer, it was very difficult to break Han Fei's indestructible body head-on. As for his strength, Han Fei had now increased his strength by about 1 wave. However, the bonus of the secret method of devil change became 7 times, which was lower than before. However, even so, when his secret method broke out, his strength exceeded 20 waves. This was already comparable to the green wandering dragon he encountered in the underground city. Of course, if the green wandering dragon also had a secret method, he was still far from it. It couldn't be said that Han Fei's current strength was very strong. At the level of a law enforcer, the difference in strength was too great. In fact, Chu Kuangren's strength was far superior to Han Fei's yesterday. The reason why Han Fei could win was that the agility of wind was too fast. He borrowed the power of the punishing saber, and his indestructible body was too strong. On the other hand, although Chu Kuangren was also a body refiner, he was obviously weaker than him. Han Fei had to sigh. The indestructible body created by this old starred Tianfei was really strong. At least so far, he hadn't seen a body refinement technique stronger than the indestructible body. Of course, without the punishing saber, Han Fei would have been completely defeated and had no chance of winning. Except for Cao Qiu's God of War bloodline. That guy was famous for his defensive power. The tenfold defense of the Cloud Dolphin was no joke. Moreover, Chu Kuangren's spiritual beast yesterday made Han Fei realize that there were more powerful spiritual beasts in this world. If there was no accident, the one that appeared yesterday should be a Qilin, a real legendary creature. In addition to strength, the second spiritual vein and spiritual beast probably couldn't be opened before he got the other half drop of source water. After all, the second spiritual vein appeared because of the origin water. If the origin water was incomplete, how could it be awakened? And the 6th level of the void fishing art couldn't be deduced in the 1,000-star city. He had to go to the Shuimu heaven. Otherwise, everyone's attention would be on him now. He couldn't find the time or the place to deduce it. He remembered that when he deduced the 5th level, he was almost discovered by Shuesh and Chi's people. At that time, he was 300,000 kilometers away from the Scattered Stars Island. As for the 7th level, he had to find a way to get it from the Zhang family. But how to get there? When would he go? Han Fei didn't know. He needed an opportunity to suppress the Zhang family. Now, there was no chance at all. I can only continue to deduce. Han Fei sat cross-legged. Now, the only way to directly enhance his strength was to deduce the devil change and push it to the venerable level. However, after reaching the venerable level, the demon purification pot would no longer be able to do anything. It should be the limit of its deduction. In this case, he had to see if he could continue to strengthen the demon purification pot after getting the 3rd small vine, deduce. 100 million points of spiritual energy were consumed crazily. After a while, information appeared in Han Fei's eyes. Demon King's contract, venerable level, low quality. Remarks. The will of the Black Turtle Demon King descends and summons the Demon Overlord with huge energy as a sacrifice. In a short period of time, the combat power will be increased several times according to the level of the caster. Current improvement, 10 times disadvantage 1. The stronger the improvement, the more energy will be consumed. Once the energy is consumed too much, the body's potential will be overdrawn. Disadvantage 2. Frequent use or mental demon barrier. Disadvantage 3. Easy to fall into the demonic path deduced art. Unknown remarks. The current deduction limit of the demon purification pot has been reached. If deduced again, it will involve the mysteries of heaven and earth and will damage the demon purification pot. Seeing this information, Han Fei's face changed slightly. The will of the Demon King descends? Could it be that there really was such a king among the demons? Besides, being called a Demon King was obviously a bit problematic. He had just become an invincible Vajra-level law enforcer. This should be regarded as a Buddhist, right? Although there was no Buddha in this world, This seemed to be the polar opposite of the Demon King's contract. Easy to fall into the demonic path and develop mental demon barrier? It seems that the more advanced the secret method is, the greater the side effect. Forget it. I'd better not use this thing unless I have to. Theoretically speaking, devil change is enough. As long as I quickly break through to level 61, my strength should be able to increase. It's a pity that the effect of the spirit awakening fluid is already very small. I can only use it to cultivate little fatty and little gold. After all, they haven't become law enforcers yet. Han Fei stopped thinking. If he had the chance to see Ren Tianfen again, he would have to ask him how to break through the indestructible body art in the future. The road of body refinement was too difficult. Although the indestructible body art could be deduced, it was already extremely difficult to cultivate now. If he deduced it again, it would be a problem whether he could continue to cultivate. He had to communicate with Ren Tianfen. He couldn't deduce blindly. Sorting out his thoughts, Han Fei got up and teleported to the Rubik's Cube library. Today, Luren Kuang didn't even cook but gathered here, waiting to set off for the 3 Holy Lands. After 3 months of cultivation, Su Daiji and the others' physiques had almost been improved. Except for Su Daiji, the others were almost unable to suppress their strength and were about to break through to advanced fishing masters. Luren Kuang asked, "Let's go." Han Fei said, "Wait a minute." The Rubik's Cube library began to spin rapidly. After a while, it returned to its original shape. Han Fei pressed his palm on one side and entered the interior through the teleportation array. After a while, Han Fei threw more than 2,000 combat skills and cultivation methods into it. Then he put more than 10 fishing master-level star beads and maps in it. After doing this, Han Fei came out and messed up the Rubik's Cube again. Han Fei said, "Xingyu, senior brother." Han Fei glanced at the Rubik's Cube and said, "The body refinement stage is over for now. Each of you go to the Rubik's Cube to find no more than 5 combat skills. When you're done, the 5 of you will start the actual combat. Teacher Joeen will watch you. If you dare to be lazy, The appearance of a 9-tailed mantis shrimp made Xing Yu and the others' blood freeze. Han Fei kicked the 9-tailed mantis shrimp and said, "During this period of time, keep an eye on these guys. Whoever is naughty and doesn't cultivate seriously, beat her up." Han Fei said this to Yixian and Su Daiji. Yixian pouted and thought to herself, "I won't be naughty." Su Daiji, on the other hand, ran to Han Fei and stretched out her hand. She seemed to realize that Han Fei might be gone for a long time, so she wanted to ask for the toys in the back first. With a black face, Han Fei threw a 6th-grade Rubik's Cube over. "You can only play it when you're free." Then Han Fei looked at Jiuyin Ling. When they can cooperate as a team and can be said to be invincible in the same realm, set up an arena outside the Thug Academy. Whoever can defeat them will be rewarded with 5 ultra-quality spiritual weapons and 50 kilograms of spirit awakening fluid. Jiuyin Ling thought for a moment and nodded slightly. "Be careful." Han Fei nodded and looked at Xing Yu and the others. "Don't be careless. We may come back at any time." "Yes, senior brother."